All right, welcome back, everybody, to Outside the Diamond. Today, we've got a guest that Braves Country knows very well. What we're doing here is going to beyond the resume and into the real stories. Our guest is the one and only Brian Snitker, Atlanta Braves manager from 2016 to 2025, former Manager of the Year winner as well. Been with the Braves organization for nearly 5 decades, a World Series champ, and now transitioning into an advisory role with the organization. So, Skip, thank you for being here with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, great to be here. I'm excited.
No telling stories about me.
Yeah, well, we will. We're going to tell a lot of fun stories. Tell fun stories.
We got a lot about you, too.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Well, when you make stories, you got a lot of stories to tell.
That's right.
So today we're really going to run this. We're going to start with your childhood. We want to know about you. You're outside the diamond for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do to get to where you're at, where you came from, your origin story per se, and then we're going to talk a little bit about your years playing, coaching, managing, and then what you're doing now. So
Okay.
From Decatur to Macon, Illinois, what was that like growing up?
It was great. It was small. You know, there was 1,200 people in our little town. 200 and when I went to high school, 258 kids, I think, in the whole school,
Oh,
in the
wow.
whole high school.
Wow.
You know, so it was just a little country. My backyard was a field. I mean, in the winter, we could walk right out and go pheasant hunting, and it was awesome. You know, it was a great way to grow up, and I told my wife all the time I really wanted to take my son back and let him go to that small town and where he could play all the sports. You know, here in Atlanta, he was at Brookwood High School. There's it's just really hard. He played 3 sports his freshman year, but I think he was the only kid in the high school that played more than one sport.
Right.
Because it went right into just from football to basketball to he never came home after school because he was always in a sport.
That's right.
Which is really cool, and it's good for him. And so it was one of those things where we all had to play all the sports because it's such a small school.
Mm-hmm.
And even the guys that could sing would do the leads and the plays, things like that. We did everything.
So you could sing
I mean,
too.
I wasn't one of those guys.
I was gonna say you're a singer. I want to hear this.
I wasn't one of those guys, but we did have guys on our team that but that's the way it was in a small community like that.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. You knew everybody in town. The relationships were unbelievable. They still are. The guys that are still around, and it's a special time and in your life, and I got a lot of great memories and feel really good about growing up in that small community.
Great. I want to thank you for being here because I've been looking forward to this. I know you. We know each other
Oh yeah, we do.
a lot,
Yeah.
but I don't really know your background, how
Right.
you got into it, what your mentors were as a kid.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I imagine to be able to persevere like you did for 20 years in the minor leagues
Mm-hmm.
and then up and down as a coach, to do that, you had to have a mentor, whether it was your parents or somebody like that.
You know what? I just it's funny because the other day there was a film crew at my house. They were doing a kind of a documentary thing, and I got asked the same thing. And I started thinking, and you know what? My Uncle Paul was my mom's brother. My mom was the youngest of 8, and he drove a Shell gas truck around our county. And so he knew all the farmers. So we always had places to hunt. We didn't have to go beat on doors. He knew everybody, where to go. He'd see him. He was out in the country all the time.
Right.
But my dad was, at the time, working for Pabst Blue Ribbon, and then he transitioned to Jim Beam. So he was, he'd leave a Monday and come home Friday, pretty much. I mean, probably 2 out of 3 weeks. I mean, he was gone a lot. So my Uncle Paul taught me how to hunt, fish. He was our Little League coach. He was responsible for me being involved in baseball. And I started at 6 years old on his team, and I've been doing it ever since, and I just turned 70. So, he was probably my first coach, and just loved the guy dearly. And then my high school coach, Lynn Sweet, that was, not so much, he didn't teach the X's and O's or really about the baseball, but it was just about life and having fun and not taking yourself too serious. And Was a good friend to all of us. He was a teacher,
Right.
and then our coach. He coached because nobody else would. In our small town,
Right.
the year before, the football coach did it. He knew nothing about baseball
Right.
because somebody had to coach the team, and we were all football players, so he wasn't going to leave us hanging.
Right.
And then the next year, Lynn took it over. He was an English teacher. Kind of, it was in 1970. And we wore peace signs, we wore Caterpillar tractor hats, and we couldn't do that, and so we put a peace sign in front of the yellow cat diesel
Right.
power,
Right.
Yep.
and he had kind of long hair, big Fu Manchu, rode a motorcycle. He looked like, remember then Kane Bronson?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's who he looked like. He had the stocking hat and everything. So that's kind of
Perfect.
it was. His name was Lynn Swede, and they did a story one time because we were really good. We got second in the state of Illinois in 1971, and it was a one-class system. And so they called us the Hard Rock Ironman of LC Sweet. I remember one of the articles at Decatur. It was Decatur, Illinois, and so it was great. I mean, it was a great time growing up, but those guys were, before I got into pro ball. And even in college, a guy named Chuck Lindstrom was my junior college coach. Who his father, Freddie Lindstrom, is a Hall of Famer. He played in the World Series at 18. It was during the war years, and Chuck played minor league ball with the White Sox. I think he had a batting average of 1,000 in the big leagues because he was 1 for 1, I think, with a triple with the White Sox.
Beautiful.
But he was instrumental too. Right out of high school, I looked up to him and played with him at Lincoln College in Lincoln, Illinois, and I learned a lot of baseball from him. Then it kind of started my baseball ascent as far as the intricacies of playing a game and how to play and how to conduct yourself. And so he was big in my life. And then I went to University of New Orleans. Ron Maestri was a coach there. He was a guy from Central Illinois. He did a lot of recruiting from Illinois to go to New Orleans. So he was big into my maturation as a young man and a baseball player, and actually signed with the Braves out of there.
Well, it's kind of funny that us older school guys, Little League was different than the travel ball is today.
Oh yeah.
They try to do more X's and O's. Back then, they just, let's play the game.
Exactly.
Let's hit.
Let's hit.
Small ball.
When I was in high school, we'd set up the hurdles on the track and play home run derby, and that was our practice.
Yeah.
But you know what? We'd field all the balls, and we'd be in the infield taking them. The
Well, I
mishit
think
balls.
we played more.
We played a lot. We played a lot. We'd go to I remember you get a bag of balls and you'd go to the grade school and hit balls into the gymnasium wall.
That's right.
You'd hit them all, then go pick them up. Then I'd throw to you, then you throw to me.
Yep,
and we
that's
just do that for hours.
It's
Now, if there's not a snack and a trophy involved, you can't get them to do it.
Or most people are doing
Exactly. No,
on this instead of being outside playing.
no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
This is the worst thing that ever happened to young America right here.
Well, when we were young, he wouldn't allow us to have video game systems.
No.
There was one weekend
Was
we
I
were
like
playing Mentiroso. So there was one weekend 64 had just come out and he bought us the James Bond, the original James Bond 007.
007 GoldenEye.
We stayed in and played it the entire Friday, the entire Saturday, and he'd asked us twice to go outside and said, if you guys don't go outside and just play, I'm not going to have you cooped up playing video games all day, that this system is going to be no more.
Right.
Well, we didn't believe him. And so he followed through.
Took it away.
I don't remember.
Oh, no.
that.
It ended up into 1,000 pieces.
Yeah, my dad did the same thing.
I did
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah. And we never came back in.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We spent the remainder of our childhood, we would always play soccer, tennis. We'd be in the woods riding bikes.
Yep.
That's
I
how you-
slept
But that was
outside.
perfect.
No, it's great. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's and something I've said many times. Like they don't know how to play. We used to
No,
go out and make our own time.
we played kick the
we'd make
can.
our own
Yep.
fun when I was young.
Right.
You'd get on your bike and you'd ride to the water tower and play. Either play baseball or football.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tackle football.
Tackle football.
I mean, as kids, yeah.
Oh yeah.
We played we would play kick the can. You remember that game?
Yeah.
Like they don't know how to play
No.
these days.
And-
Like you
and-
said, unless they're the participation trophy.
Which is, it makes me feel good because I'll look out the window of my house and my grandsons will be out and they'll be throwing each other the wiffle ball
That's
and
Yes.
hitting,
Awesome.
and it's awesome.
Used
You
to
know,
love-
or they're twins, which is great because there's always somebody to play with,
right.
and they're out in the front yard, you know, throwing to each other
Right.
and playing catch and throwing the football around, or you know, shooting a basketball, or they'd rather, which I'm really glad they don't have. I think my daughter finally got them one of those machines last year at Christmas. But they're not big. They're not big into that. You know, they'd rather be. I put a cage in their backyard, and it's kind of like the pitching end of it. There's a net that you can hit golf balls in. So she showed me, my son-in-law put up solar lights on it. So I know the neighbors are, because at 11:30 it'll be,
It
you
kicks
know,
on.
they're down there and they're whacking away. But I looked one time and one of my grandsons was hitting drives into that one, and the other one was hitting off a tee. You know, at night. It's awesome.
Beautiful.
It was.
Well,
I
that's
was
how you
like,
get better.
yeah. No, I said it made me feel really good about putting that cage in there.
Yeah. As a kid, did you know that you were good?
Yeah, a little bit.
You were
I think I was. Yeah, I was
better
good as
than most-
I was good as a kid. It kind of gradually went down the hill as I got older.
You made it.
But I was. I mean, I competed and
Yeah.
loved doing it, and you know, we went from, like I say, there was a travel team that, you know, you went around to the, it wasn't like these.
Legion
Well,
ball.
Legion was after. And
Yeah.
that's when it got serious, was American Legion ball in high
Right.
school.
Mhm.
That was, you know, you went up and tried out for that. You played with all the guys from all the big high schools in
That's right.
Decatur. And,
Yeah.
and it was pretty cool. I mean, we had fitted hats, which I thought was unbelievable.
Yes.
You know, the coach, one of his allures was, we got $8 hats, you know, and they were fitted real hats,
Yeah.
and not just a blue, red, whatever, you know.
That's really how I got seen.
Yeah, that was the real
It was
baseball.
Legion.
American Legion was
We played
real
60,
baseball.
60 games
Yeah.
during the summer.
Yeah, that's what we did too. We
Our
played
high
a lot.
school team in Utah was like 12 or 14
We played like
games.
16, I think, when
That's
I was
right.
growing up, and half of them, and we'd have to burn the field. You know, after
Yeah, so you could-
after it thawed out, it
Yeah,
would be wet, so
that's
we'd
right.
burn it so we could play the game that afternoon. You know,
That's why Legion was so
Legion was it.
good. Now,
Yeah.
well, now it's turned into travel ball,
yeah.
and
And
they
it's-
probably play more than 60 games.
Oh my God,
They
It's-
played a lot.
Yeah, no, they play way too much. Quite honestly, I remember I used to do those lessons, and some of the parents would say, "What would you do?" And I would say, "Well, I'd keep them out of these places." The first thing I do, and I said, you know, they should be playing baseball in baseball season, basketball in basketball
Right.
season.
Thank
That's
you.
right.
That's
Thank
yeah.
you.
Play
I
all
was
the
gonna ask you
sports
that,
and
'cause-
or soccer. I mean, I don't know. I've watched the football, and these kids are so big and strong, even at
Yeah.
a young age.
Yeah.
And I think football was good for me. I think it was good for my mental
That's right.
makeup and baseball, and that was kind of the sell when my son was growing up. Was some of the coaches wanted him to play like in 7th grade. They said it'll be good for his baseball. And you know what? And we've had them. We've talked about this over the years. We've had young guys when we were in Macon and everywhere that, you know what, if they'd have played football, that would have been good for them.
Yeah.
That little edge or that mentality.
Well, it teaches you discipline, teaches you teamwork. It teaches, man, that guy's going to smack you, man. You got to get a little,
No.
you got to have a little aggression
Exactly.
to it.
Exactly.
And you can't play the game of baseball soft.
No.
You have to be, the one word I keep telling my grandson, be aggressive.
Yeah.
On the bases, be aggressive.
Yeah.
Hitting, be aggressive.
Yeah.
Ground balls, go get the ball.
Yeah.
Don't wait back. Be aggressive.
Yeah. No,
And
that's
there's nothing wrong with that.
no, not at all.
Yeah, I think Tommy Gregg told us that multi-sports is what he tells me. These travel balls just, they tell you, oh no, your kid's going to get hurt. He shouldn't be playing other sports. They just want to focus on baseball all year round.
No, they just
the
want your
entire
money.
month. Yeah. And he's like, no,
They
you
just want your money.
got to play multiple
No,
sports.
it's and you look
So,
at some of our better players. A lot of our Hall of Famers were multi-sported guys.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, they played, you know, a lot of different sports, and probably baseball wasn't even the favorite of some of these guys when they got into it.
Well, if you notice, if you look over the last 20 years, if you look at the data, if you I'm sure you've skimmed over it. The number of arm injuries for kids at that young age.
exponential.
oh,
Oh, it's
it's
exponentially
horrible. I mean, Tommy John's
compounded.
and
I met a kid who had Tommy John's twice, and he was 19.
Yeah.
Twice.
Well, I know as I broke down over the years, throwing all the batting practice or knee or something, I'd be in there rehabbing, and there'd be 14 or 15-year-olds, and I'm like, what's he rehabbing? And it's a shoulder or an elbow,
Right.
and I'm thinking, what's going on here?
Because all they're doing is throwing.
They never
Throwing
stop
gas.
throwing.
No,
Throwing gas
all they do
all
is
year.
throw.
Yeah.
Yep.
And especially now with the TrackMans and all that, they're looking velocity and spin and wondering why guys are breaking down in our sport.
Well,
Right.
you should have heard Leo's take on that. We had him on.
Leo's beautiful.
Yeah, you gotta
because
listen to
side
that one.
sessions.
Yeah,
Side sessions were managed.
we're
Control.
managed.
Now
It's-
they got the camera back there and they're looking for spin rate and they're trying to throw 110.
exactly, and they wonder why they're breaking.
Right.
I said,
And they can't throw strikes.
No, and they're not caring about it.
He said pitching's like real estate. Location.
No, that's
location.
true. That's true.
And,
And Leo, like I say, he always talked about monitoring effort. That's the
Yeah.
pitching coach's job,
That-
to monitor effort.
That's
I said you pitch on the
exactly-
5th day and then you exercise. And they threw twice in between.
That's right.
But they would only throw it 65%.
Oh, probably not even. I mean,
Not
you know
even
what?
that.
And I used to catch them when I was a bullpen coach. And I remember Leo and I spent many afternoons in instruction league with Johnny Sane at the campground,
Right.
drinking gin and tonics and talking about pitching. And that's where that plan was.
That's
came
where
in.
Johnny Sain's trailer was.
That's where it was. He'd pay $2 a night to stay.
Yep.
He'd pull his trailer in there.
Beautiful.
And and Leo kept that program going, and then
Right.
he made adjustments to it and modernized it. But you know what? Those guys never missed starts in the
They
big
didn't
leagues.
break down.
That's why they won 14.
And
in a
they
row,
threw more,
And they threw more
but they didn't throw
hard,
harder.
right? And they, what they happened? They learned to command the baseball too.
That's
By
right.
doing
That's-
all,
he
and they
said
don't
that
get
as well.
it in this day and age. They don't get this. You're just. And because I remember I get frustrated as a big league manager, and I'd hear sometimes they come back and say, you should have seen so and so threw 88-mile-an-hour sliders in his side section. I said, are you trying to break this kid down or what?
Right.
Because
seems
they're
like it.
they're not going to hold up doing that. They don't understand because like I said, I used to catch those guys and. It'd blow you away how the effort level. It wasn't a lot, but they got the ball to move,
Right.
and they commanded the baseball.
Right.
That's what he
Threw it
said.
over.
Touch and feel.
Touch and feel is what it was.
Yep.
He said, how do you put it? If you can make the ball do what you want at 60%,
Exactly.
then you can make it do, or how much better could you make it?
Yeah.
The command could you have at 90%?
Exactly. Johnny Sane used to say extra and not extra. And you have to know Johnny
Right.
Sane with all this difference. But you know what? When you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. If you can do it at 50% or 60%, then you're adding.
I
Yes.
wish I'd have taken in a lot of that from the guys, Johnny Sane,
Yeah.
Smokey Burgess,
Yeah. Luke.
Luke.
How about Luke Appling? Oh, my God. I used to tell players, I'd say, look, there's a lot coming out right now when you talk to Luke. But I said, you got to just let him go because there's a lot of really good in there.
Oh, yeah, you gotta
what?
take the
listen to-
nuggets.
Nuggets.
Exactly. And he had a bunch of them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he was something else. God, was he fun. Holy cow. Well, we're blessed to
have been around
grown
that.
up.
That's
and,
right.
The Bobby Doos.
And throw a Bobby Doos in there.
The golden era.
And there's another guy that, people ask me about my mentor. Absolutely. Bobby Doos, Jim Beecham, Bruce Del Canton when I was with him.
Bill Slack.
Bill Slack. Those guys are just oozed,
With knowledge
knowledge and feel and experience.
And we talked about player development the other day, and they were true player. Everything they did was to get that kid better. It wasn't about maybe I get a chance to go.
No, we all
higher.
wanted to, but that wasn't
We
why
all
we were
want
there.
That's right. It was all about the kids.
Exactly.
Every one of those.
And I remember I remember when I got this job. So I'm driving around and I'm talking to Randy Engel and Rocket Wheeler and Rick Albert and all these guys that are, they could be sitting right here, and just how much fun we used to have. And these guys were miserable. And I remember I told my wife, I said, God, this kills me. Because I said, we used to have so much fun with those guys, with them players. And I remember I told Bruce, and you had Benny on here.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I was with Benny the first year he managed. And he'd get a little like, irritated or something. I said, Benny, don't worry. I said, we're going to work with these guys. We're going to bring them out here every day. And it's going to be unbelievable the product we're going to have at the end of the year than what we did when we started with them.
That's
How
right.
much better they're going to get, and you're going to look back and go, God, this was so cool to go through this with them.
That was the number one responsibility as a coach and a manager. From day one, did they get better?
Exactly. And that's why we, and we loved every second of going out there at 10 in the morning. Well, maybe not all. Not 10 in the morning, but I mean, we worked. I mean, and it was fun.
Now you can't work. It's too hot.
Yeah. I thought about that the other day, and I figured we'd get into this, but I said, I remember when we had Marcus Giles early on in Macon, and that glove didn't fit his hand. And I remember the greatest thing I've ever seen forever in my 50 years, the damnedest thing I've ever seen is when hubby took Marcus and made him a major league all-star second baseman. Because I tell people, I said, I hit the grounders, and because I used to say every year about the 1st of July, hubby was ready to go. Because I said, he didn't hit I said, I'd hit the grounders, and because he'd be in shape. Because he would get out there and show them how to do it.
Right.
And we were out there in Macon. It was 100 degrees every day. The tops of your feet are burning. I'm hitting them. But they never missed. I mean, he'd come home and spend the night and then come back to Macon at 10 in the morning to run weights or whatever.
That's back when we didn't have
We didn't know. You were the strength coach.
I was the first base coach was the strength coach.
But I remember watching you make Marcus a play. It was like I said, the damnedest thing I've ever seen. Wow. And they talk about I told people this too. I said, I've been around a lot of self-proclaimed really good infield instructors, but you're the best I've ever seen. Well, you're the best I've ever seen. I swear to God, in 50 years, the best I've ever seen.
What did Chino say? How much did you pay him to get him to say
that? Right. Hey, here's that 20. Here's that. Well, Marcus was willing to work too.
Yes, he was.
But he played with the chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, he did.
He was drafted 60th or something like that.
He was at the bottom.
And so he had a little. He played with that edge you were talking about.
You know what? Him and Mark Lemke. Mark Lemke was. That's right. Came before him, and they were both a lot alike because everybody told them what they couldn't do.
Right.
And all they did was go out and played and got results.
That's right.
And were very successful.
Yeah.
But
Marcus, when he started, the glove didn't fit.
It didn't fit. It's like I remember it was he couldn't. Oh my God!
I think he made 25 the first half.
It was unbelievable. That was the damnedest transformation I've ever seen in my life.
And to this day, I think he made 5 the second half, and then the next year I think he made 7 total.
When he won back to back, he won MVP in Macon, and then you went to the big leagues, and we went to. You
remember
Myrtle
what
Beach.
You told me? I went from the outhouse to the penthouse when I got that job.
I was ticked off too because I'm thinking, holy cow, I'm happy for you, but I'm not. I'm not happy.
That was the year you went to Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, went to Myrtle Beach, and Marcus was MVP of that league too.
You got a couple manager of the years there.
Got a couple,
right?
Yeah, we won. Actually, we shared a championship because of hurricane.
That's right.
And then we won one the next year. And it was good. We had good players. Mike Hessman, him, Jason Ross, really good pitching.
Jason Ross, big right fielder. You talking about a guy that's put together.
Talk about a big kahuna.
Was he 6'5"?
Oh, yeah.
6'5".
He was I think he was like a second-team All-American defensive safety or something at the University of Hawaii.
We've been able to see some great players. Mike Hessman,
he's
got the home run record in minor leagues.
In minor leagues. Home run king.
Mike who?
Till this day?
Hessman. Yeah. The home run king in the minor leagues. Most home runs ever hit in the minor leagues.
In Macon?
No,
he's
like
I'm saying, but y'all had him in Macon.
We had him in
Macon.
He was
at 18 years old, third baseman.
Right.
He's still with the Detroit Tigers. He's
433 home runs in 19 seasons.
So
that's insane.
He hit it. I was managing AAA because I remember I told him, I said, Hess, look, I said, I want you to hit that homer off us. I said, wait till we get in town because and I got there and I got a home run king baseball and a T-shirt from him because we went there and he hit it like right before we got in town. I was like, damn, I hope you hit that against us.
Yeah,
he's one of the greatest humans you've ever been around.
Great guy. Oh man,
you know who I saw the other day? Right at the end of the year last year was A.D. Thorpe.
A.D. Thorpe.
How about that? I can't remember. I was in Washington. He's in D.C. The end of the year this year.
On that team down in Macon, was Brooks on that team too?
Yeah, Tony Brooks.
Tony Brooks. His brother was a middle linebacker for
the Buccaneers.
Yeah, the Buck.
Yeah.
I forget what his first name
He
was.
went to Florida State, I remember.
Matter of fact, I think those two guys got in a fight in the clubhouse.
Probably.
We had to pull them apart.
Yeah, I remember that one smack we had in Spartanburg, and somebody popped somebody, and I heard it out on the diamond.
I know who it was. Tony Graffinino.
Yeah.
Was fighting with somebody.
Yeah.
That's not the fight. Okay, yeah, that's not the fight where you held someone back.
No, that was.
And I know. And he was just getting free shots.
That was an instructional league with Benny.
Have you heard this story?
Yeah,
you were on the team.
No, I wasn't on the team.
Him and Morgello got in a fight.
Yeah, I remember.
And
I remember you guys talking about that.
I grab him, Morgello. Nobody grabs Benny, and Benny's just going pop, 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 pop.
Well, it's saying something in itself, because Mo was a big dude, man.
That's what he said.
He's a guy that he would go in and tear the phone book in half, and when you get in the hotel room,
I'm talking about the big ones.
the big ones.
Well,
He had the
one with the
knack
white
of-
and yellow pages.
Yeah.
What did he tell you? He said, "Don't ever do that again. I'll
Yeah.
kill
He
you."
said, "Hubby," I said, I thought somebody was going to grab you. He says, "Don't ever do that again. I'm going to kill you." I said, "Yes, sir." Oh man, those are good days.
So let me ask you, when did I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna just kind of rewind it back a little bit to you mentioned going from Lincoln College, University of New Orleans. So what was that transition like for you?
You know what? It was I was. I thought I was going to get drafted that year, and I didn't get drafted. So then all of a sudden I go to the Valley in Stanton, Virginia, and play. And then one day the coach come up and said, the Braves want to sign you. And it was Bob Didier had worked me and two other guys out in Baton Rouge, where he lived, after the season in New Orleans. And then he was managing the Kingsport team.
Right.
So I didn't get drafted, but he signed me to kind of fill out the roster. And that was, I remember that was something too, boy, because, you'd work out at 10 in the morning. I remember I couldn't feel my arm after about a week, because all you did so much throwing and everything. I was
So Kingsport,
yeah.
Dobbins Bennett High School.
Yeah.
What a field that
Remember,
was.
I said it was, and you too. It's like you didn't get a locker back then until you were in AA. It was just a hook on a wall. And
It was a hook on a wall.
in Kingsport and
Oh
Greenwood.
man, that was.
Talked about it.
Yeah.
Oh, Greenwood. I was when I first came up, my first year, I was in the bathroom area with a hook on the wall.
Yeah, I remember. I said you get a hook, and then you'd shower on pallets to get off the concrete.
Oh man.
Yeah, people nowadays don't understand.
The
When
grind.
they think about baseball the way it is now,
Yeah.
in this age compared to when you guys went through it in
Oh,
the
no.
minors. Bruce talked about showering somewhere where it just literally flooded. You were swimming.
No.
Charleston.
Yeah. Well, you remember that the clubhouse in Charleston at that old field, there was dirt floor. You had to put your towel down so you
Dirt
didn't,
floor.
to
Muddy
dry
your
your
feet
feet. Yeah, to
That's
dry
not-
your
that's
feet and
not
put
a
your
lie.
socks on.
I mean, we're not going back prehistoric, but that's
pretty-
That's the
yeah.
way it was.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of what they've done now in the minors.
Oh, absolutely.
They've made those
Facilities are
ballparks.
nice.
They
They're state
had
of the
to
art.
they had to
Yeah, they
upgrade.
Yeah. And we rode on that Bluebird school bus that
Oh man.
had screws coming through the armrests and no air conditioning, and back then guys smoked. I mean,
That's right.
too, they
Smoking on the bus.
yeah.
That was the biggest thing when I signed out of high school. I went to Kingsport, and the guys were smoking.
Yeah.
I'm like,
In the dugout.
in the dugout. And my dad had always taught me, if you're going to be an athlete,
Yeah, no, it was crazy.
smoking. We went on a road trip, and they were all getting hammered, and I'm like, man, this is pro ball.
I
here.
know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how about in spring training too? They might have washed your stuff like 3 times a week.
Oh yeah.
So most of the time you'd go in there and you'd cut off long underwear for
Yep.
to be under your uniform. And you could put them
Yeah.
in, and they were stiff as like cardboard.
Yeah,
till you
just
started
sit 'em
sweating
up.
again.
It was terrible.
Oh my God, that room after about a day or a
Body
week,
odor.
stunk
man.
so bad
if
in
you
there.
wanted it cleaned, you'd go home
And wash
You
it
do
yourself.
yourself.
at the hotel.
Yeah, and
Wash it
yeah.
in the sink.
Yeah, you get in the
Yeah.
shower
Yeah.
and then hang it over the railing on them in the hotels.
Yeah.
And in spring training, it was no such such thing as it was. They'd wash this aisle today, that aisle tomorrow,
Yeah.
and then they'd roll back around after about 3 or 4 days to you again, so you could get everything washed.
Well, they've really cleaned up the minor leagues. They really have.
That was great.
And
now.
then the scheduling where every Monday's off.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They should have done that years ago.
I wish they'd do that in the big leagues.
And
quite
then
honestly.
then it's like 3 days at each place.
Yeah. I would, for me, a perfect thing would be to play, you play Tuesday through Thursday and Friday through Sunday and then have Monday off. No 4-day. I hate 4-day series now in the big leagues.
Right.
Where you can win the series, win 2 out of 3. And then plus the pitching gets a chance to reset.
Right.
With what they got and how hard it is to keep guys healthy these days. I think that'd be awesome.
Right.
Why did they switch to the 4-game
That's
series?
recent, though.
Well, I mean, I don't know how long that's been going, but because you play it every day. I mean, you had to play 4 games because you go 21 days in a row playing before you had an off day.
Back in the day.
So you had to play 4. You had to play a 4 and a 3.
Right.
If you didn't have the off day. So yeah, it's different now with what they're doing to pitchers and pitching, and you can only have 13 pitchers. Somebody asked me one time, said, "How come you got 14 pitchers?" I said, "Because I can't have 16." Yes, I'd take 16 if you let me.
Yeah. You need them.
Yeah, you do.
Now,
you need them.
I don't know if I really like it, but putting a guy on second really helps with
That-
the
I-
pitching.
Yes, it does, because you're not playing 17 inning
That's
games.
right. The game gets over quicker.
Oh no, absolutely. I wish they played 7-inning doubleheaders. That helps. That would help too. We did that in COVID, and that was
Yeah, I remember
really
that.
good.
Yeah.
That was really
Really?
good because you could get, you might use a starter and a reliever,
Right.
and just
It'll save your middle relief.
well, just save your pitching.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that a bit. Some guys are like, "Oh, I'm a baseball purist. I like that." It's like, there's nothing pure about this game anymore.
Right.
That doesn't even exist
Right.
anymore. What they've done to it.
Well, and number one, baseball revolves around pitching.
I said, you look at the end of the year and you look at the top 6, 7 teams in pitching and the top 6 or 7 teams in hitting. The top 6 teams in pitching are going to be in the playoffs.
They're going to be in the playoffs.
The top guy that leads the team that leads the league in hitting isn't all automatically.
That's
but
right.
if you're leading in pitching, you're going to the playoffs.
That's right. Well, that's why you guys did 6 straight, right?
Yeah, we had 6.
We
straight
had
and
14
Yeah.
back in the day, and it was
pitching. Yeah.
now the couple years you guys just mashed.
Well, we mashed, and then 2 years ago we lost all of our position players, but
Right.
we led baseball and pitching, and we
Right.
made it into the playoffs.
Right. So
Last year we lost all of our pitching, and we didn't hit great, but we lost all of our pitching, and that's just you don't
can't.
have the depth to cover that.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're in trouble.
So moving into past college, now we've got the draft and signing. So this is kind of a 2-part. So what went into the decision to not sign with the Cubs,
Yeah.
and then after being drafted, and then when the Braves offer came, what did it mean to you in that moment?
Well,
to be a
the
part of that?
Cubs thing, I got drafted then. I got hurt, and I was in a cast. As I said, I didn't play, and I got drafted. Then I played the next year and didn't get drafted. What's that tell you about me? So, but that's why, I was afraid because I was out in Virginia playing in a college summer league, and I hadn't played. I played 5 or 6 games, and then
Right.
I got ran over at the plate and tore my thumb. So
your
I had
sensor.
surgery.
Yeah.
So I was, I didn't play, and I was like, God, I'm just getting this cast off. If I start playing, I get off slow or something, they're liable to whack me, And I wanted to make sure, I was like, if I'm going to go into pro ball, I want to make sure I'm gunned up to go.
Right.
So I didn't sign, and I remember the scout coming, and it's like, Mr. Wrigley wants us to sign all of our, people we draft and everything, and I just said, well, I'm gonna wait and give it another shot. Then the opportunity came when Bob Didier offered me a contract, and I was like, well, I was done playing in at college. I think I had a year left because I got redshirted that year I got hurt, but I was like, all right, I'm going to go for it now. I'm not going to wait any longer. And signed, went to Kingsport.
He signed you in free agency, though, right?
Yeah, I was a free agent.
Okay.
I remember I signed in the bathroom at DeKalb College where they worked all the the guys out. They had all the draft picks and everybody in there. And I remember I signed a contract in the bathroom
Wow.
of a hotel room at DeKalb College.
So who was your second manager? DDA?
Bob was, and then Al Gallagher, Dirty Al.
Dirty
It was
Al
in Greenwood. My
Gallagher,
first full
man.
year was Dirty. Boy, I'm telling you, you talk about an experience there. He was something else. He was fun to play for because he let you go.
Yeah.
He turned you loose, and it was fun. I mean, he was nuts. I mean, literally, he was Dirty Al. I mean, he would come there and he'd have one side of his baseball pants would be long and the other one would be high, and he'd have a chew in both sides and a dip in the middle, and he'd throw up in the corner of the dugout every day during BP. And
That's great.
We had
him,
and then you went from that to probably Gene Hassel.
No, I never had. It was I went from him to actually
Was
I
it
came
Bobby
to
Goose?
Richmond from there when you were there. You
Tommy-
and Benny, with Tommy Aaron was
Tommy
there.
Aaron.
I remember I was there for 10 days before I knew he was bald. Never saw him without a hat. I think until we went to the airport. And then it was Doozy.
And that was a good team we had in Richmond too.
Yeah, they won the whole thing. I think. I remember.
78.
78 or 9, 78. 78. Yeah, 78. Because I came from A-ball up there.
I got brought up halfway through that season.
Yeah.
But what a team.
It was really good. Yeah, I met, because you talking about an experience. I remember, I'd be down the bullpen or something. Or actually, I remember I went out and coached first one time early. I said, well, let me get out there on the field. Next thing I know, Ed Miller threw a bat at some guy, and then all hell broke loose. Against Charleston or something. And
it was against Charleston.
Yeah,
I remember
that because Beach was the manager.
I remember that.
Yes. I remember somebody threw a ball at him, and he fired that bat over their head, and then it was game
Beach
on.
was the manager of
the Charleston team.
I remember in that fight.
Because I think that was the Astros.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got in a fight with them, Bradovich or something like that.
Yes.
First baseman could flat out hit.
Yeah.
And I went into the pile. Next thing I know, Beecham's got me in the fight. I'm like, I can't move.
Yeah, but the stuff like that, or I remember I'd be in the bullpen and somebody'd be up and they'd say, so-and-so, you ready to go? And he goes, nah, let him bake a little bit longer. I was like, these guys are mean.
Beautiful days. Okay, so you transferred when you got released. Then you got managed.
Then
did you coach?
So I coached. Actually, I got released, and they kept me around because I could throw batting practice. So I'd throw a lot of BP and help out, because it was like Eddie Haas was a manager, and I don't remember, he might have even been Leo, might have been the pitching coach. But they needed help throwing BP and everything, because Eddie was older even then.
Right.
And so and then at one point, I know Susan Bailey called, or Hank called and said he wanted me to go to Bradenton, and Pedro was down there with the rookie league, and they didn't have anybody to kind of handle the pitching. Right. And since I was a catcher, I want you to kind of handle the pitching there. So I went and, went to Bradenton to Pirate City.
Oh.
Yeah.
So do you think you had an edge because Chino was the catcher, but helped with pitching?
Yep, he did.
Did that
I think
affect your mindset of calling games?
I think it was good for me to have been a catcher, because you're literally you are looking at the whole field and you're seeing things, and
there's a lot of catchers
that are
managers
that are managers and.
But how did that translate into you working with pitchers?
I just think that, I was available, and I think it was just because I was a catcher and they didn't have anybody. You
were willing to
back
do
then. The staffs were
smaller.
Small. Yeah, maybe 3 would be a big one. If you had a pitching coach and most of the time, if you had a man, sometimes they had a roving pitching coach was the only pitching coach that the organization had.
Each guy had to wear multiple hats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the man, and I said too, I was like, and which helped me. I said, I learned how to turn double play from Hub. I said, I could teach that. At that, when I was done, I was like, I could teach outfield. I could teach catching.
That's right.
I said, I could teach. I watched him, and I said, I learned from the best here. I could teach somebody how to turn a double play.
You did more as a staff.
Yes, you did. You had to, or it wouldn't have got done.
Well, at that level,
Because you
too,
had
though.
infield, you had base run. They didn't have like a roving base running guy come in and teach. And whatever.
No, we did all that.
We did all that.
You were the hitting coach.
That's right.
In Macon when we were there. I mean, you were kind of the base running coach. I remember you'd always pull your shirt down and say, this is why you don't go into home plate for head first. You had that scar there on your shoulder.
On my shoulder, trying to dive past the catcher.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you did all those things.
Yeah.
You did the infielders. I probably, we both team up on outfielders if we needed to.
That's right.
And
I remember watching all of you guys doing multiple things.
You had to. And
Well,
you know what? It was fun. Like I say again, you weren't stepping on anybody's toes. We were all there for the common good and to do the thing.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I missed when I got to be a major league coach is when the game was over, you had to be careful what you were talking about after the game because you might
offend
somebody.
Right.
There's their area. Whereas when you're in the minor leagues, we'd all get done and we'd sit there and talk about, and nobody was hurt. Their feelings weren't hurt because we were trying to make them better.
Well,
we were learning and making them better and doing
key,
that.
Getting them better.
Yeah.
And rising tide floats all boats.
Andre King talked about on Sundays. I remember I used to go to you and say, "Hey, we got chapel today. Is it all right if we don't take infield, whatever?" Yeah, let's cancel that. Let those guys, they're better off.
Yeah.
And he really talked about that, how it influenced him and
for the rest of his life.
For the rest of his life.
Baseball chapel really had an effect on him because he ended up, he's a
athletic director and AD at a Loganville Christian Academy.
At a Christian school.
Yeah.
And now he says,
chaplain.
He tells those kids, I know you may not like being here, but this is going to be the best 30 minutes of your life.
Yeah.
The most
That's
important.
Good. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I remember too back then. I'd love to come in on Sunday mornings and smell because hubby would have different flavors of coffee going.
That seems to be a theme with this guy.
Coffee
connoisseur.
I would love to come in because he'd have his little bags of all these different kinds of coffees, and I'd come in and then so a lot of times then maybe we would take infield just to get him out there to do something after chapel,
right,
and all that, and then we go in there. I remember Terry Morgan to bring in a bag of cheeseburgers. We'd get a cheeseburger and a Coke before the game. Those are such good times.
To me, if you're not a big league coach, that's the best level.
Yeah. You always said that.
Because kids, when I got the job offer, they called me. You want to be a first base coach in the big leagues? And of course. But when I thought about it, I'm like, it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
But you get to the big leagues, it's not getting the guys better. It's that W.
No, I know. It is.
It changes.
Dayton and I used to, when Dayton Moore was the GM, the Royals, and how successful he was until this day. We'll talk, or
right.
He'll call, I'll call him. We'll sit and talk about. He said, those big leagues are fun. You get paid in the big leagues. Is it fun? I don't know. It's not all. Yucking it up and everything. It's stress. I mean, it's a big deal there.
Every night.
Yep.
But I said the minor league, we'd talk about that, how much fun we used to have with the players and the staff. I mean, all the staff members, in spring training, we go to the dog track. We'd all play golf.
That's right.
We'd all enjoyed each other's company.
Yep.
And had a healthy respect for what everybody was doing. And we were all on the same, I said, we're all on the same page. Everybody was there for the organization. And everybody was happy with the next guy if he got moved up. Nobody was like getting mad somebody's jumping you we all were competitive. We wanted to get to the big leagues, but that didn't overshadow what we were there for, and that was to make the players better.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you transitioned from coaching for nearly 2 decades to managing the minor league team, how was that transition for you?
It was, I remember the first game. I remember Johnny Sane talking to me like in instructional league, because I managed instructional league first. And he said, when things start getting hairy and all that, he said, just back off and let the players, they'll handle it. I remember my first game when we were in Greensboro, and I remember I walked the bases loaded. I didn't know the other team we were playing. It was a Yankee team, and a bunch of these guys ended up in the big leagues. Yeah. And I remember I walked the bases loaded thinking I was going to be Casey Stengel, and then I rifles the ball off the wall, and we lose the game. And I remember going back to the hotel, and I'm sitting I was in the shower, and I was thinking, you did exactly what he told you not to do. And that's why he told you that, so, and then it was fun, I mean, I remember I was in Anderson, South Carolina, and you do extra hitting and put the machine out there, and I always had to hit first, and then, you'd let the players do the extra stuff, and yeah, it was, but it was just about, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, you had to do it to fail at it, to learn how to do it.
Baseball's a game of failure, right?
It is, yeah. And that's the same thing. I thought I knew about managing in the big leagues. I've been a third base coach. I've sat there by Bobby his last 4 years. I was his third base coach, and listen to him do media. And I remember telling other guys that would get called up at the end of the year that I'd manage against. I said, "You think you know what you're getting into? You have no idea until you actually get here and see that, and see it, and feel it, and learn how to do it."
Right.
You guys talk. I love hearing the stories about how your passion for developing the younger guys and just making them better and being excited for them. Who was that? Give us like a player or two that you just knew this guy he had the stuff. Like, he's going to be a big leaguer.
Oh, you knew Chipper was going to be, my God. When we had him in Macon when he was 18 years old, I tell people, go back and look at that year he had. Yeah. It's stupid. I mean, it was like video game numbers, what he did.
Video game numbers.
I mean, it was crazy how good he was.
I think he stole 40 bags that year.
Yeah, he could do it all. I mean, and, they had the chip-o-meter or whatever, like that Sean Dunson thing they had in Chicago. But I said he made a lot of errors, but we didn't have the greatest first baseman in the world sitting there,
Who'd we have, Puma?
Yeah,
Karcher.
Karcher. Nothing against him, but I mean, he was a young, gangly, kid, but I don't ever remember him making an error that cost us a game.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, it was him. Golly, I don't know. When you want Jason Marquis on the mound, that ball, that was electric at a young age.
Right.
I mean, this kid, and he was cocky, and he had an air about, he had an edge and an air about him too. But, that stuff was lightning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys like that. There's some guys that get there, like when we talk about Marcus. I mean, if you'd have said that first half in Macon, and when you look at him and the stature and but then he get in that batter's box and that he'd hit them home runs to right center field. Like, it was like, oh my God,
yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah.
But there, so there's a lot of them that I can't remember. Tyler Houston was a number 1 pick. I mean, this guy was tooled up, and he just needed to get out of, learn to get out of his own way pretty much, because he could really play.
Right.
All
those guys, and I'll even throw Derek Jeter in there.
Yeah.
All of them had bad defense, but they got better.
Yeah.
Because they worked at it.
Yeah. And that's one of the things.
But the one thing they all could do
was hit. Yeah.
Right.
They could hit.
Yeah.
But they all got better. I mean, Chipper made 6? Jeter made 58.
Yeah.
In one season.
That's almost impossible to believe
tell
that
people,
those guys made.
But
you tell people that, but
yeah, they probably wouldn't do that in today's game because the fields are so much better.
Well, yeah.
Some of them fields we played on. Oh my God, you go out there and I remember in the middle of the afternoon and get the water, the hose to kind of make the things more playable.
I used to drag it after I got done with Marcus.
Yeah.
But it was simpler then because you could just go out there.
Yeah.
Now, my last couple of years I was in Columbia, you couldn't you're messing up the field for the game. Well,
yeah,
this is the minor league. We got to get this guy better.
Exactly. I used to tell him too. This is a really good field. It's too bad you won't let us play on it.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, the game is everything's a little bit different now.
No, it is. It's and you know what? And that's okay. I mean, the guys that are it's probably more different to guys like Hubby and I that saw it back when it was really, and you're talking, that's when it was pure. It was really cool back then when we got nothing but great memories from our times in, riding those buses and getting off at 2 a.m. and grabbing some, going to Waffle House. And
that's
like that.
Back when you had 12-hour bus rides.
Oh yeah. You get a cup of, you get a large drink at McDonald's and make them fill it up with ice. So you get at 3 a.m. You had something, you had
drink.
cotton mouth. And then I remember, I think Hubby was the one, he started bringing the cooler onto the bus.
Right.
So guys could, we'd never done that before. So guys could get a drink of water at 3 a.m. after, they're all dehydrated after, when it's hot in the South Atlantic League and all. And, And, you know, at 3 a.m, you kind of need a drink of water every now and then.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I want to be credited with coolers on the bus.
Yeah.
Because then you get the AA.
Yeah.
Well,
And
you didn't bring the coolers on.
and
for
our
that
manager-
reason, for that reason.
Yeah. Well, I said I would have
Remember,
loved.
our manager would stop at
Well,
the-
that was
the
that
liquor
was
store-
Hassel. I wish
the liquor
I
store.
wish I could have
before.
played for Hassel.
By the end of the road trip, you'd hear the beer bottles and beer cans going shh. Whenever the bus
Yeah.
would turn shh, you'd
Just
have to
clanging
step
against
on,
the sides.
It was unbelievable. But then you played the next day.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Well, you'd get in. You'd get on the bus at 11 o'clock and get in at noon, and you're out there stretching at 4 o'clock.
And have a game that day.
Yeah,
That's back when.
yeah. No, you played. There wasn't no days off.
But didn't think about it. It's- if I could go back and do my career over, it would be in Macon. It wouldn't be go back and be in the big leagues
Yeah,
for me.
yeah,
Now the money's different.
yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, but
yeah,
but the satisfaction and
yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
You
That's
know,
where the fun
there's-
was. You know what? I said I remember you used to balance your checkbook to go to Kroger. You know, or but my wife we'd bring the kids, and there'd be a 3-bedroom apartment. It'd be me, the pitching coach, and the trainer, and I'd get the master because I had kids. You know, and there'd be Larry Jaster and Willie and the other one. You know, and they may have had a wife, but I had kids, and you go to the consignment store and buy bunk beds, and then you know your kids would be in bunk bed, and you and your wife would be on a mattress on the floor, But you know what? You didn't think twice about it. That's just what we did.
It's what you had. You do what you have to
We
do.
did what we had to do.
But you guys also did it for the players, you know, to
Well,
guide
and it
them
was-
and be
yeah.
there for them.
No, absolutely. And you have to
develop.
teach them because, you know, they'd come in there and it'd be like, I turned off my electricity. And I'm thinking, well, if you wouldn't have paid $250 for a dog for your girlfriend, maybe you'd have had enough money to, you know, to pay your electric bill,
Yeah.
you know, or something like that. Or you'd have to teach them. It's like you can't drink milk at noon with your lunch because you're going to go out there and work. You're going to work out at 1:30 in the afternoon, and it's
Throw
going
it
to
up.
curdle, and you're going to throw it
Yes.
up.
That's right.
Yes.
You know, you got to drink iced tea and water.
Like
you
common,
know, or-
common
that-
sense.
but they don't know that.
That's right.
You know, the Latin kids would be out, and they'd be out there throwing up their guts, you know, because they had milk for lunch, you know, and it's like, don't drink milk then. Or, you know, I'd tell we'd have those camps, you know, for the kids, like kids camps for like 3 days in a row. And I
Yeah.
tell them the first day, it's like, number one, before you come out here, because you'd always have somebody throwing up during stretch. There, I said, don't drink milk before you come out here. Don't drink, you know, eat fruit and some toast and
Right.
water or juice or something like that,
So your body can,
because you're gonna throw it up.
That's another thing that's gotten better in the minor leagues.
Oh, the food's great. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They
I
take
mean, they
care
get
of
all kind of meals. And,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
which is good. I mean, they make them live.
Yeah, they should have.
So it's
They-
like,
yeah, I
well, if
mean-
you're going to work them out and you want to grow them, then you better feed them.
that's right.
Yeah.
You know,
Because
with
they
proper
they make
nutrition.
them work
Honestly,
out
yeah.
a lot.
yeah,
It's
and
almost
it's good. You're growing players.
Yeah.
Well, to give it
Really?
the proper nutrition, I remember when I came and saw you did in Lexington. You had the nutritionist girl that was calling the guys in at a specific time, telling them they could only have ABC. So
Yeah.
nutrition's gotten better, exponentially better from the time that I remember when I was younger.
Oh no, absolutely.
That's why they're so big and strong now.
Yeah, that's
Well-
that's one of the reasons. It's
Yeah.
you know, and they got the complexes like we got that are just
State of the
Insane.
art.
crazy.
Yeah,
Were
state
you
of the
with
art.
me? No, it might have been Matika was the manager.
I was there with him.
Okay.
That was Chipper's first year.
Okay, we saw Scott Rowland
Yeah.
in Spartanburg as an 18-year-old. He's a guy that you could pick out and say, hey, he's
Yeah.
going to be a big league
He
player.
was a man.
And then, but when we saw him later, he was like 245, 250. I mean, he
Yeah.
was put together.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a guy that stood
Well, I
out.
still remember back in the Bobby asked me one time, he called and asked me about Hensley Mullins when I was in managing Durham.
Mhm.
And I said, that's the best looking player I've ever seen. He was going to try and trade for him.
Yankees?
Yeah, he's with the
Yankees,
Yankees.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got a question. When you got out of the minors and you got up into the big league life, so you were the third base coach from
Yep.
2007 to 2013.
Yeah.
And I've heard him, he's like paraphrasing, danged if you do, danged if you don't. What is the hardest part about being a third base coach that fans don't realize?
Wow. Well, you know what? It's that's the one when the game starts. That's probably the most important guy on the field, quite honestly, other than the manager doing the bullpen or whatever.
Right,
But
right.
you're the one coach that can make a difference in a game. You can win or lose a game at third base, and I've seen a lot of guys,
Yeah.
you know, do both. And that's the one thing that you know. And you know how you judge a major league third base coach is with one out. And a guy at second, or one out and a guy at first, because with nobody out, you're not going to send anybody, or you're not going to take a chance. With two out, it's hard to get a hit with two outs. So you're going to try and send everybody with two outs
that you can't,
because you don't want to try, you know, have to get another 2 out hit because those are hard to come by.
Right.
Yeah.
One out is when you judge a third base coach whether or not you're going to send him or.
Remember the sign?
Yeah, I'm going to send him. Yeah,
I'm
keep
gonna
him going.
he would give me this sign. That meant he was going to send this guy regardless.
So you would let you.
So
let
I
him
would
know.
tell the guy to hit the ball, keep going.
Keep
Go.
going.
Yeah.
No,
If
I
they
remember.
cut it off, so what?
Yeah.
We got to run.
We got to run. So I
You know?
remember I'd let him know and say, this is a situation where, you know, where you're at in the order or something, you know, you got
Right.
the pitcher on deck or, you know, in the hole or they're going to walk the 8th place hitter and da-da-da-da. So, you know, I'd let him know when I was going to send a guy. But that's, and it's, you know, just relaying signs from the manager. I remember, I remember when I got it, first thing I did when I got to be the third base coach was I went to the eye doctor and got LASIK.
So
So I could see the dugout because I never had a good day wearing contacts. When my first year in Kingsport, I wore contacts and I lost a contact. I wore a teammate's contacts.
Oh,
I'm lucky I didn't go blind.
Oh.
I'd get some kind of disease. I remember his name's Richie Howard. He played at Auburn. And I wore his contacts because I had screwed mine up or I'd lost one or something like that. And so I said, let me try yours. And I tried and I could see okay. But I never had a good day in contacts. I'd sit in front of the mirror for an hour crying, trying to get them damn things in.
Yeah, I can't touch my eye either. I'm the same way.
But so I got LASIK so I could see Bobby, and I never took my eyes off of him. It's funny because I would run out between innings, and I never stopped because he would give me a sign a lot of times before the catcher even throws a ball down. He'd put a hit and run on or a bunt or something like that. Or if a guy got a base hit, I never watched the guy. I never saw a hitter touch first because as soon as that ball was hit, he'd give me a sign for the next hitter.
right.
So you had to be on point all the time as a third base coach with a manager like that.
Right.
Yeah. So
You
he's
know.
always thinking.
He's
Multiple
thinking
steps ahead.
Multiple steps. That's why he's such a great manager.
That's
Yeah.
what
You
what
know,
Leo said. He was way ahead of his
He was
time and how he thought.
he was way ahead of what was going on. He was, you know, and he used to piss him off when another manager didn't have his reliever warmed up and he would stall and all that. I remember he'd sit in the dugout because he'd have his guy ready 2 hitters before,
Right.
or he'd be like, they're not going to hit for that guy, are they? If it's a left on left or something like that, you know. And I remember, I don't know how many times he'd tell me, go there and find out why so-and-so's not playing tonight. You know, he wanted to know whether or not they're going to bring him off the bench in the 8th or 9th inning and hit. But,
Right.
so I'd go over there and, you know, I'd always get friendly with third baseman and talk to him. Say, what happened to so-and-so today? You know, and then they'll tell you everything, you know.
You asked nicely.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you know, because they, you know, you have a relationship with them.
That's right.
You know, but Bobby was, he was the patience. Somebody, I was asked that the other day. I did a thing, and it's like, what's the greatest thing you learned from Bobby? I said, patience.
Right.
I couldn't believe, I'd sit and overreact in the dugout, and he'd be like, what's the matter? And I'm thinking, nothing. You know, and he had been there, done that, seen everything, but his patience with players. And,
Right.
and I think that one of his biggest qualities was the fact that he knew how hard this game was to play. You know, there's a lot of managers that don't understand how hard this game is to play, and they think because these guys are the best in the world at what they do. They make it look easy, and it's not. And I think you have to understand that this is a really tough thing you're asking these guys to do, which is to come off that bench and hit.
That's
or, you know, don't give in. Well, you know what? I used to say as a manager, even in the minor leagues, then I can't get mad at a pitcher that, you know, that it's like so-and-so's on deck and, you know, be smart. This is the one that always gets me, be smart. I said, well, why don't you walk him? Then you don't have to worry about him missing in the strike zone and giving that guy something to hit. I can say it. I can always walk a guy. I never told a pitcher in all my years as a manager to be smart. And I watch big league managers go like this, and I'm thinking, well, what if he misses and throws that ball down the middle, whack? You can't get mad at that guy because you can always walk that guy.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's just so much that goes into it, and you just respect. There are just so many, and it's in today's game. There's not the cat and mouse and the manage it against it, because with the DH and all, you don't do a lot. It's still running that bullpen is the biggest thing that a manager does, even in American League. It's in some ways, the double switching, and which was kind of fun back in the day. I mean, it was fun to.
But you had to know what you're doing.
But you had to know what you're doing, and who you got now. You got to bring them in, and they got to face 3 hitters, so you got to be aware of that. And man, I can't do that because that third guy, he ain't going to face that third guy because whatchamajigger's coming out of that dugout and hitting for him, and which is why I used to always tell Alex, I was kind of like, we need to have non-matchup guys because it's not a matchup game anymore because they got to go 3 hitters.
Right.
Usually you could bring him in for that that
guy.
left-hander, that Freddie Freeman that they're not going to hit for. I'll bring a lefty in on him, and then bring another guy in for the next guy. But now you got to look at the 3 they got to face, and it gets them a little sticky. So you kind of want guys that aren't matchup guys.
Right. Now, so how do you keep trust with players if split second calls get questioned?
Yeah, well, you know what you do?
Being a third base coach.
Oh, being a third base.
Not a manager.
Okay.
Yeah, just from a third base
coach.
When you might hesitate.
I know, and it's about their RBIs, which is, I remember I did this a few times, and because I'd always point to the guy at second, and I'd tell them, it's like, if you don't get a good secondary lead, I'm not going to just run you into an out.
Right.
And I said, now you're going to have to explain to that guy that's hitting, and I'll tell him why I didn't score you because you're not paying attention. You're not being ready. Because I said, when you're at the plate, you want that guy to take a good secondary lead and get a good break for you so you can get that RBI. Now, if RBIs are big, man. I remember Willie Starzer used to say, batting average does this and RBIs do this. They just keep stacking up. Yep. So you know what? I just tell them the truth. Why? You know what? I'm not gonna.
And you get this for RBIs.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah, they used to. I guess they now. As I look at it,
what do you get paid for?
Yeah, I don't know. Hard hit balls and all this stuff.
Launch angles and
all
I'd rather have a guy that would break bats and get hits
and drive runs in. I was like them Tony Perez guys and all that. That guy was the most valuable guy. Yeah, how about you're down 4-1 in the 4th inning. There's a runner at third and the infield's back. How about ground out to second?
Yep.
Instead of trying to hit 2-run homer, how about making a productive out and get us a run closer to the game? So because always it's kind of like as if you always said, we got to get that one run and until you run out of innings. But as long as you got an inning, you can tie that score. We want to get that one run.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, Atlanta were the comeback kings a couple years ago.
Well, the
9th inning comebacks were
it was unbelievable how we
in the season.
We were like an NBA team.
Yeah.
Is that nothing happened till the last quarter of the game, last 3 innings. Right. Our guys would just lay around, and I remember I'd look over there and say, "We got them right where we want them." We get in that last of that game or whatever. Oh my God, these guys are something else.
Well, when you talk about productive outs, how many games over the years you lose by?
Oh, I know, right?
1.
You could get 2 ground balls in that game, and you win by 1.
I said, give me 2 outs in that. I can pick 2 times where I can have a guy make an out and we would win that game.
Right.
Whether it's a fly ball or a ground ball to second or third or short or with the infield, just putting the ball in play. Make contact.
Right.
Yep.
It's a great thing. Contact.
Well, if they're trying to do that, I'm okay.
I know.
Because again, it's tough.
It's hard to hit. And
they got throwing that nasty slider, that split.
Things are going like this and like that, and it's hard to hit. And
you're going like this on the one that's coming into you.
No, I know. No, it's hard. It's hard. But, my thing is, too, it's like, man, I'm letting you hit every day. You're getting 4 at-bats and seeing all those pitches every day. So, it's not like you're a pinch hitter that hadn't played in 5 days. Right.
Charlie talked about that.
Yeah.
That mindset of coming in.
And Charlie was, he was really good.
He got some big hits.
He got some big hits. I mean, that 1 year, that Charlie clutch thing was real. I mean, I remember we were getting ready to go into the All-Star break. and we got a 1-run lead, and there's 2 outs in the top of the 9th inning, and we're trying to win. And there's that 2-out base hit to left, and he threw the guy out at the plate. And
I remember that.
Thank God,
Yeah.
that started our All-Star break, But that was just a clutch play. Not he wasn't a hit; it was a play that he made, and he had a knack. I mean, could hit a homer or get a big hit, and he would pitch. I mean, he was a guy that would take the ball, and he ended up, coming to camp and pitching a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting. He told me
that.
when I one of them times where it's like, Charlie, what do you got an inning in you or whatever, and he went out there and he says, man, I said, I walked that guy, and he says it really ticked me off because he said you expend a lot of energy walking somebody, throwing balls.
Yeah.
And even as a position, he said I didn't want to do, he didn't want to do that. And I got like man, that makes a lot of sense. That walking guys that
you're wasting energy.
You're wasting energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of what he did. And he was really good at it. Charlie was awesome. He was an ultimate team player. I always thought he'd be a great coach, manager. Now he's probably going to make his niche in the media industry.
He's got a good voice for it.
He's got a good voice, and he's got a good.
He's cerebral.
he
Yeah, and he's
seems
got
to
good
know
feel.
the game too.
He does.
That's why
he's a bright guy.
He might be a good coach.
He'd be a good coach, or I think he could manage if he wanted to go that route.
Right.
But he does like a pre and post and all that. And I know the female fan base wouldn't mind looking at him on TV too. But he's an awesome guy.
So you just said something about managing. 2013, you go to Gwinnett.
Yeah.
And then
from the big
a couple
league.
years later, 2016, everything flips.
Yep.
So kind of walk us through that whole transition.
That whole thing, yeah. So
the interim, what was that?
In 13 we won the division. So we get beat by the Dodgers. And we all heard that there might be a tweak in the coaching staff. And I'm thinking, well, I was a third base coach on a division winning team, and we're out there in L.A. and Uribe, I think it was the guy used to be Juan Uribe, hit a homer, won the game. We lose the series, and I remember the next day I'm at my house, and I think I'm on the computer or something. I get a call, and they want to see me down at the ballpark. And I remember going down there, and it was like Freddie and Frank Wren, the general manager, they brought me in, and they were going to make a move. I remember leaving there, and I called Greg Walker, who's a dear friend. He was a hitting coach, and I said, well, Walk, I'm the tweak. So I said, well, I went home, and I thought about it for the weekend, and they wanted me to go to manage AAA in Gwinnett. And on the one hand, I said I was probably the only AAA manager in baseball that was sleeping in his own bed. My mom was in assisted living right down the street from the ballpark, and then I started weighing all those type of things.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? If I go with another team, I'm going to end up in Arizona for spring training and away from the kids even more.
Right.
Yeah.
As if I just stay right here. And I figured that I was, my aspirations or my thinking I might have a chance, because when you're a third base coach, you think maybe there's a chance you'll get to manage, because a lot of them do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have been the only one of a long line of them that didn't manage because, from Jimmy and Ned and Freddie and all these guys that, went on and coached third and then went to manage.
Right.
So I said, well, I'm going to go do that. And because I said, I need to stay around close so I can take care of my mom. And probably, she wasn't getting better she was going downhill a little bit in her health. And I thought, if I'm at third base, I can't walk. I can't take a day every now and then to take care of if something happens to her. Right. But I said, if I'm managing AAA, I could do that, So I went ahead and I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And then at that point I thought, well, I'm done managing. And I said, and I was okay with it. I said, I don't need this to define what I've done in the game and or anything. I it's been a great career, and I'm going to continue doing it. And I'm at home, and and I kind of thought, I didn't. Some people always said, they didn't like managing AAA, and I thought, well, I didn't mind it because if I brought somebody in, I'd say, look, dude, I did my job in the big leagues and got kicked out,
right?
And that was just, it was another recycle. That was like the third or fourth time I'd been recycled in the game.
Yeah.
And Gwinnett was a great place. That was a great field. Everything was positive. I didn't mind AAA. There's a lot of day baseball in it, and the travel was, other than sometimes you have to get to the airport really early, and so you get in late. And you don't really sleep or anything, so it's kind of like a league where you take naps. For
in the middle of the day, naps?
For 5, you don't really get that good night's sleeps because you have to get up and travel and all that. But so I kind of in my mind, I was like, okay, well, it's not going to happen. Me manage it, and so in 16, we just got off a road trip. I had sold my house in Lilburn. I stored everything with Orlando Lynch, the Peach Tree Movers or whatever, came and got all my stuff and stored it for me. When spring training was over, I moved into my daughter's basement up in Buford. She had twins, so Ronnie was there taking care of them or helping her. And, so all of a sudden, I took Ronnie out for breakfast. We were going to this guy's house that had a home. The guy that ran this little diner in Buford, we were talking to him about maybe going over and looking because we needed to buy a house. Yeah. And I got a call, and it was a general manager. And I said, well, I got to take this because that wasn't, abnormal that the GM, all GMs call their managers regardless of what level you're at.
Right.
So,
yes, sir.
I went out and I'm start pacing on the parking lot, and she's in there talking, and it was like about 45 minutes later, I'm still out there. And then they actually said, you got to keep this quiet because they hadn't told Freddie yet that they were going to move him that night after the game. And so, I couldn't tell her, and honestly, I thought I heard him say, we're going to make a change at the bench coach. I thought they were going to do that. And then I was like, wait a minute, he just said manage the Braves. So I took her home back to the kid, my daughter's house. We got some food to go for the kids. And that night after the game, I called her and said, where are my suits? And she said, well, they're up in a closet upstairs at the house. And I said, you're going to need to help me pack. And she goes, why?
Why?
And I said, well, I'm going to Pittsburgh tomorrow. And she goes, what are you going there for? And I said, well, I'm going to take over the Braves. Wow. So that was the first she knew. I didn't, all the way back, I didn't tell her anything till after the game because they're like, you got to keep this silent. Nobody can know because they hadn't told Freddie. And so then, I brought the staff in afterwards and told them what was going on. And I actually ended up taking Marty Reed with me to put him in the bullpen. And Troy he was home, I think, for something. I think he was, still at North Georgia coaching or something. So 5:30 in the morning, he took Roscoe and I and dropped us off at the airport. Next thing I know, I'm in a cab, and then it breaks, and then my phone starts blowing up, and it was just a blur then for a week. I remember. So the next, I think, 2 mornings later, I'm laying in bed, and Dayton calls me to talk about, congratulate me and everything. And thank God he did, because it was like 11 o'clock and I was sound asleep. I slept right through the alarm and all that. I was glad he called because I might have missed a game. I was just because I was exhausted. I hadn't slept. Right. My mind was going. Right. And it was just, I finally relaxed a little bit. And so there was a start of it. And I didn't think I'd be there for 10 years. Honestly, I didn't know I was an interim. I didn't know what route they were going to go. At the end of that year, I remember I didn't know. I was driving to Instructional League for organizational meetings, and Bobby was behind me. We're on 75, and I think Terry McGirt called and said they were going to retain me as the manager. And I was like, holy cow, can I call Bobby? Because we'd been talking, and I called him, and he was all excited, and then we got there, and everybody, we all went out to eat and everything, and then, because I'll tell you, that first year, it was kind of bittersweet when I got it, because Freddie was a good friend of mine. Yeah. He's a good man. He still is. Right. Great friend. Right. And I told the players, I was like, this is great. This opportunity, but, it's kind of torn because Freddie's one of my best friends. Right. He's a good person. Yeah. Right. And I remember the first night we had a big lead again. We gave up a big lead, and all of a sudden there we come marching back and everything. And then we win the next. I remember the next game. My first win. It was like 2 outs in the 8th inning, and Vizcaíno was the closer, and I brought him in for like a 4-out save. And I remember I brought him in to face McCutcheon, and he hit a ball foul out in Pittsburgh,
Mm.
and my hand was shaking so bad I couldn't even mark his name off the lineup card. I was so friggin' nervous when I brought him out of the bullpen, and he ended up getting the save, and I got a beer shower out of it, and that was kind of surreal right there.
Yeah.
And then to do it for
10 years.
as
10
long
years.
as we
Decade, yeah.
had, and
Did you have any non-negotiables in the clubhouse?
well, yeah, I mean, it was, and I said, when I got there, changing the wardrobe was, I was like, everybody's wearing tennis shoes and coming to, the ballpark in basketball shorts. And so I changed like we were
Professional.
Right.
professional,
Yeah.
what? I
We're
remember, so Freddie brings me, a picture of these $5,000 tennis shoes. And I said, if you can go to the Y and play basketball in them, then they're not acceptable. I don't care how much I said, get you a pair of cowboy boots. You look good in them,
Right.
with some jeans or whatever.
Right.
Look presentable.
And every year in spring training, when I would give my first speech, I would say, you know what, you're not going to wear your hat backward. You're not going to put the glasses on the A. You're going to wear your jersey. We're going to dress on the road.
Right.
And I said, it's just one of those things that, we're not, and as I got into it, every year I'd add things, and it's like, we're not like everybody else.
Right.
We're going to do things this way. And I always said, out of respect for those Hall of Famers that put all those flags that are flying up there. I said, when I leave, you guys can do whatever the hell you want.
That's the way they dress.
But-
That's the way they.
But
yeah.
now, and you know what? And you don't know how many veteran players that we would bring to camp that when that speech was over, they'd come find me and they say, you know what? It's kind of good to have rules.
Yep.
He said, I've been places that didn't have any, and
Right.
you look and guys are in, cut off T-shirts and shorts and da-da-da-da. And
Yeah, they look like slobs.
Yeah. And so I said, it's just, that's not the way we do things here. We're not, and we're not like everybody else, and I always told him too, I said, I'm going to treat everybody fair, but not the same. So it was, I remember one year I forgot that. And Freddie Freeman came up to me after and he goes, Brian, he goes, how come you didn't say fair and the same again? He said, I look forward to that every year. So the next year when I had a meeting in the clubhouse and I did it, I said, I forgot one thing yesterday about, treat everybody fair, but not the same.
Well, that's good because he was listening.
Oh, no. And you know what?
Well, and that's what separates him too.
Exactly. And the next year when he left and he signed with the Dodgers, I mean, they do that 30 teams in 30 days or whatever. And I watched and I saw like their early work or their infield during BP and everything. And he was the only guy on the field with his jersey on. And I asked him about it and he goes, right. I said, you taught me better than that.
Love it.
So it's
Well, that's a nod back to how Bobby ran. the
exactly.
tight ship.
No, absolutely.
Like you're not going to show
I
up.
remember to this day, Gary Sheffield sitting there.
You always showed up suit and tie
Well, we had to do that.
because Bobby
That was-
demanded
He demanded the coaches. I mean, we
professionalism.
go coast to coast, and we'd be buttoned up with the tie on.
That's
Well,
right.
so would the players.
And the
Like,
players
looking-
had to wear sport, but now we travel
Right.
in Lululemon tracksuits. It's
That's-
awesome.
that's
God,
right.
it's awesome. It is so nice.
So let
You
me
know
ask-
what? You don't have to pack as much.
Yes,
That's right.
Well, kind of like
Well, those kind of, but as long,
Yeah,
but
this
we
is
all,
fab-
everybody looked the same.
This
We
is
all looked
uniform.
Fabletics.
we were all, you know what? We
not
were
a sponsor
uniform
yet.
wearing the Lulus.
Yeah.
Yep. Ooh, Lulu's nice.
No,
By the way, you're going to a meet and greet in January.
Yeah.
Or something?
yeah.
I'm going to be there.
Okay. Yeah.
What are you wearing?
Yeah.
Lulu, you gonna wear some Lulu?
I'll probably wear. All I wear is Lulu pants most of the time because they look really nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think
And they feel.
I think I have
great.
2 of them that month. I know that Mac started. I told Mac I'll do anything except the clinic because I'm not doing those station to
Right.
station things. I don't do those.
No.
I can't.
I've done them, but it's been question and answer in the dugout.
Yeah, and I'll
you
do.
know.
I don't mind
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
some of that stuff for them. That's
Yeah.
fun.
Well, Andrew's going to be there too.
Okay, good.
So-
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm doing something too. Then I think Glav and Glav might be there too.
Yeah.
He said he's going to be one of them. I'm going to be at.
There's a guy
be
that
fun.
you recognize was some kind of player, Andrew.
Oh,
as a-
you
as
know
a
what?
kid.
I had this interview the other day. I was on camera and everything, and I said I remember Andrew signed. So you'll like this. So the other day, I go to the winter meetings and I'm repping the Braves at the lottery draft, which I didn't even know what it was. I had to put on YouTube to see what guys wore, the representatives. So, it's like John Church, always said, you respect the position, so you dress.
Right.
That's why I wore a sport coat and open coat. But anyway, I had to do an interview for Andrew. Hopefully, I'm hoping that it's because he's inducted into the Hall of Fame this year and they're doing things. But I went back and I looked at that first Danville team, and he was 17 and Glenn Williams was 16.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to tell you a story. So I'm flying out the next day, and Ronnie and I are walking through the airport, and I want to get a cup of coffee. So I pull into this coffee shop, and I'll be darned, sitting right there in front of me is Glenn Williams. And I recognized him because I'd opened up that, talked about him, and he was there with the WBC with Australia, and he was going to Cary, North Carolina.
Right.
That's
awesome. He looked great.
That's the 16-year-old shortstop that y'all had signed.
That's
Exactly.
another guy that we had in Macon.
Yeah.
I remember that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was a switch hitter at the time.
Yes,
he ended up just going right.
And then he ended up playing in the big leagues with the Twins.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I didn't know. I looked him back up, and I saw he was 16 and Andrew was 17 on that Danville team. Unbelievable. But I told a story, not to interrupt. No. I told a story, so I said, I remember hubby coming in, because back in those days, it would the stabs would be on a field, and they'd rotate groups of players. And I remember hubby coming in one day, and he goes, I don't know about you guys, but I had this kid named Andrew Jones on my field today. He said, wait till you see him. And that was the first I'd ever heard of Andrew Jones.
Do you know if he called me tonight and said, hey, I need, at 2 a.m, I'm going to take BP.
He might.
I need you to throw to me.
Yeah.
I would throw to him.
Yeah. He might.
That's how much I thought.
Yeah.
And it didn't always start off. I managed the second half. That's the only time I've ever managed of instructional league.
Mm-hmm.
And he had hit, and he was taking ground balls at short. And I said, get in the center field.
I know.
And he started yelling at me. So I took him out of the lineup that day. And Bobby Dew says, what are you doing? I said, he was yelling at me. I told him to go out there and get better in center field. He's a center fielder. And he was mad at me for a week. Bobby Dews was scared of Chuck Lamar back then.
Yeah.
And but we became pretty good friends.
No, I'm going to tell you what. I used to say this about Phil Niekro. I said there was no bigger Braves fan on the face of the earth than Phil Niekro. Andrew's right there. Andrew is such a fan. He's at all the game. It's amazing at the home game. I look over and there's Andrew, but he's like Ralph Garr. He's always got his Braves hat on too. But he is a huge Braves fan, and to this day, I love him. He's an awesome. I pray to God that he gets in this year.
So do I.
So deserving.
Come on.
He deserves it.
10
so
gloves,
deserving.
400 and something. 425 home runs.
Look at the back of the baseball card.
That's
That's
all
a
you have
Hall
to
of
do.
Famer.
Yeah.
Well,
Let's talk about video game stats.
Chris Chambliss used to say, check the stats.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's all you got to do.
Yeah. Look
That's
at
all
his
you gotta
baseball
do.
card. That's
Yeah.
a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer.
Well, Chipper made a good point. We talked about this the other day with Charlie, I think. If he had an N and a Y on his jersey, he would have already been.
Oh no, yeah.
He would have already been
Yeah.
in the Hall. But I don't know why
it's that kind of thing blows me away sometimes. Jeff Kent that got in. I look at his numbers, and it's like the guy's a Hall of Famer.
Why did it take so long?
I know. Lee Smith. I used to look at Lee Smith. This guy was one of the first real closers.
I did a thing with Lee Smith at the All-Star game, question and answer, and a reporter brought up his first strikeout in the major leagues.
Was you?
I said, I think I struck out every time I faced him.
I know. I mean, but he was. I can't believe it took him so long to get in.
Yeah.
Amazing. And hopefully he gets in there and
I mean,
we
I
can
guess
all celebrate him.
there's a few guys that you say, why are they not in there? But
yeah,
I don't understand.
So, how do you handle a long season without over managing? Because he always talks about over coaching.
Yeah.
In certain respects, how do you handle a long season without being too much into the weeds with your guys?
Well, you know what? You have to have patience with the player. You can't go. you know what? You got to know that who they are, what they're capable of, and as a team, I used to tell teams, it's just like those years we won 100 games in a season, and we'd have, if we were lucky, only one bad stretch. Most of the time, you can win 100 games and have a couple of bad stretches. They're going to happen.
Yeah.
I remember I told my son this, and I said, you know what? And when he got to the big leagues, I said, there's going to be times when you're going to lose games. You may lose 6, 7, 8 in a row, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to wear it. And that's just like with players. They're going to go bad. They're going to have bad streaks. Right. And so you got to be patient with them, and you just got to keep putting them in there,
right.
believing in them.
Encouragement.
You know what? You bring them in and you talk to them about it. I remember I brought a closer in one time. He was struggling. I'm like, dude, I have no idea. You're throwing the ball so well. It's just not happening for you. And that's just the way it is. I mean, you're going to go through periods. And you know what you do? You tell them the truth. You talk to them. You bring them in. And I always tell them, it's like my door's always open. I'm going to tell you the truth, because I said, they haven't told me the truth my whole career.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you the truth. And most of the time, there's a time when we got Jock Peterson.
Yep.
And Jock came, and he was big for us. He had that little edge and brought something, and it was big, whether it was the pearls, and he was playing, and we had got Eddie Rosario. But when we got Eddie, he was hurt. So he was rehabbing. And I remember Jock was playing every day, and I brought him in and said, Jock, you know what, right now, I said, don't call Walt and see if you're going to play. You're not going to play. You're not going to start right now, because I'm going to give Eddie some run. I mean, he's ready to go, and there's just not spot. You know what he did? He sat there, and you know what he did? When he told me, he goes, I'll be ready for whenever you need me. He said, all I want to do is win. So it's like, and I would bring him off the bench, and he would get big hits, and then he'd go lay back on the couch, But that, you know what? But I told him the truth. You tell somebody, if you tell them, we're all grown men. I said, I wish, instead of dancing around things, just tell me why.
Well, and there's a lot of that in baseball.
Yeah.
Dancing around.
Yeah. And you can spin anything the way you want it.
That's
right. I think guys appreciate the truth.
They do.
They appreciate the truth, and you're not, because you start lying to people or making things up, you end up getting caught, because you're going to forget what you told them, and then all of a sudden things aren't going to go. But if you tell them the truth, it's easy to go back on that.
Right.
You don't forget that, and people appreciate it.
That's good.
Well, being honest with people, they can accept it and deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. And same thing. Not only we say that baseball teaches you and sports teaches you a lot about life, you would just rather someone be bluntly honest with you.
Absolutely.
In life. It's
I want it.
Okay. Well, I want it.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, just be honest with me. I might not like it, but I can adjust and deal with
Absolutely.
it. If you give me a lot of gray, or you're murky in the waters with fluff, now you're going to upset me a little bit more when I find out that you could have just told me and then I can make whatever adjustments I need to make.
No, it's exactly. And you got to believe in the players too. I mean, it's like, it's that's how you get through a long year, is just stay. And you don't know how many guys after. I remember a pitcher came up to me after we won the World Series. He goes, and I've had a number of guys after the season's over, you've won something, and it's like, thanks for hanging with me.
Yep.
Just thanks for hanging in there with me and allowing me to get it going.
Yeah, when everybody else would have bailed on me. Thank you for sticking
and that's
by
how
me.
that's how you get through consistent. Being consistent. I always tried to be the same guy every day, regardless if we'd won 10 in a row or lost 10 in a row. I used to tell the teams, even in the big leagues, when they come through that turnstile and we're hitting, I don't want people to know if we won 10 or lost 10.
Right.
We're the same every day.
Right.
Yes.
That Brazil, and you have to do that because you have to handle, as I said earlier, you go through those bad spells, but if you handle them, you take responsibility, you don't start pointing fingers and all that. There's always something good on the back end of those bad streaks if you handle them.
I'll say one thing, Skip, that my wife and I watch every single game, and your post-game interviews, not once in your 10 years did you throw somebody under the bus or put shift blame to anybody. And I think we really appreciated that because it's a team sport at the end of the day, right?
No, I know.
You said, yeah, it happens. We'll get them next time.
We're going to be better.
Yeah.
And I always used to say too, it's kind of like, I believe in my heart, we haven't played our best baseball yet, no matter how, and it might be, who knows when. We played our best baseball at the end of the year. We won 10 in a row.
Right.
I mean, it was kind of too little, too late type thing, but you know what? We hung in there and did that at the end of the year when we were out of it. And I was proud of the guys, how they handled that and how they kept playing. That was the one thing about our teams is they always keep playing. you know, and you don't know what's going to happen today, but you know what, you can't, you got to prepare, you got to play with energy. And our guys have always done that. I don't worry, you know, in spring training, I would go, and it took a while because when I first got there, I remember I brought all the staff in after the first year and blew up the spring training template we had. I said, I don't like what we're doing here. You know what, we need to, and I had to add, you know, we had some new coaches. And now I remember I told Walt, I said, Walt, I'll be honest with you, you can go there, you can have your first meeting. Those guys go out and they know the program. Yeah. And it's a really good program. We've won a lot of games the last 10 years with this program. Right. And it's because the players make it happen, you know. Right. And I used to tell them too, it's like, we're going to do stuff. You know, you always talk about do it right. Well, they did, because I said, I want you guys to go play golf. I want you to go fish. I want you to go swimming with your kids, because when we're done here, we don't need to be staying out here all day trying to get a butt play right or rundowns, or when we can just do it right the first time. That's right. And now, because I said, once we tee this thing off in the end of March or whatever, it's game on for 7 months. That's right. And you guys are going to play every day. I want you to enjoy spring training. That's right. You know what I mean? Get your work in, and then go, you know, I said, go play golf, go
Bobby was always big on that.
I said,
work smart.
Yeah.
You know what? If we're doing a fundamental, let's do it. Let's do it right. No messing around. And then we'll hit it in 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
That's what I used to do. We do it again. You know?
Do it again, and then by the season, we're ready.
We're ready to go. Yeah. And then you guys are, because like I say, because our players now, I mean, we're probably the one team that doesn't redline and make guys sit down because they're heat map. Right. And I fought that when I first got here and analytics came on. I mean, I closed the door with some powers that be about that, because I said, that's not the culture here. Right. You know, not playing is not, you know, it was kind of like they used to, if you're hurt and you're in the lineup, that presence is big for the next guy. That's right. You know, and so our guys, they play every day. And managers would come up to me and say, how do you get them to do that? And I was like, well, it's kind of just expected here. Right. You know, when they're in the minor leagues, that's kind of been the culture here forever. Right. You know, Brian McCann used to yell at me or get mad at me on Sunday afternoons because he didn't catch. I said, I'm Mac. It would be like, I got to catch the other guy too. You know, he needs to play. He didn't, you know, because I said, these guys, you know, I remember I gave Frank Coor a day off, or I gave Thorman a day off in Scott Thorman, our big first baseman in Mississippi. And Frank Coor rode him like, you big, you know, you need a day off. And so he did it so bad, the next day I took him out of the lineup so Thorman could get on him. Because those guys, not playing wasn't an option. You know, on a day off, they'd go play 36 holes of golf. They never.
Yeah, they like to move. They like to work.
Well, and we had Leon Roberts for years. Oh, and Leon would always say, I don't get tired, I get sleepy. Right. You know, I use that to this day because he was a big, strong
Leon's beautiful, man.
But
Leon was awesome.
He was awesome.
You know, I was part of in Macon. Macon was a great place. We lost 19 in a row.
Yeah, I remember that.
We were 2-23 at the time. Ugh. 2-23, and we ended up 9 games above a 30-game swing. Yeah. But he told them guys, hey, keep marching. Yeah. We're not slowing down, you know, not till that last game of the season.
Yeah, yeah.
And we got a couple players in that helped. Yeah. But we ended up 9 games above. Yeah. And,
But you just take, you know what? It's kind of like one of those things, too. If you look at that if that schedule was that TV right there, that for 6 months, you'd look at it and you'd break out in hives, because it's like, how do you get through all that?
Right.
But you know what? You just take it a day at a time.
Game at a time.
It's like it's 162 seventh games of the World Series, pretty much. Right. You know.
You don't complete a marathon with a sprint. A marathon is just one foot in front of the other.
And that's what you do. You suck the life out of today and then worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow's so far away. Right. You can't do anything about tomorrow.
What scripture says that, you know, worry about tomorrow, for today bringeth its own troubles. Like you're not going to help add a cubit to your stature worrying about something that's out of your control.
Can't control.
Right. Worry about the day.
I was telling you, the only thing you can control is today. That's it.
Yeah.
And so in 2021,
the
glory year for Atlanta, a long time waiting. I mean, AA goes and picks up Soler, Rosario, Duvall, Jock, who you talked about, like at the deadline, probably in the last 20 plus years, one of the best trade deadline acquisitions ever. And we make that run to the World Series. So what was like, when did you know, like, we can do this?
Well, I'll be honest with you. That All-Star break, I was a nervous wreck because we were 2 or 3 games under 500. We were coming out of the break with an unbelievable schedule, and I was like, God, this is just not going to go well. You know, I didn't even enjoy down on the patio cooking out and, you know, taking the kids swimming, and I was just like miserable because of what was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, we got those guys. And I remember I talked to the guys in Kansas City because we got Soler.
Yep.
And I remember because we were going to use him as a platoon or whatever. And then so we called the hitting coaches and the guys that we knew with Kansas City, and they're going, no, Snit. He said, this guy's going really good right now. You need to keep, you need to play him. And so I did. I said, well, piss on it. I'm just I'm going to go ahead and play him. And we put him in, and this big sucker, man, he started, and you talking about a wonderful human. He was. I remember he walked through that door, and I said, "Finally, we got a real Cuban." I mean, this guy was. We got all these fake guys, running around, little guys. This guy's a monster.
He's a monster,
and he is a wonderful person. God,
super nice,
great guy. I love. To this day, I love that guy. And got to know his dad a little bit. And he's got a great family, his kids. So he made immediate impact. Eddie was hurt. Jock got some, and I told Jock he was in Mexico or something with his wife on vacation for the All-Star break, and he flew in that day. And I was like, he said, I'm not even going to get there to start the game. And I said, well, maybe you'll come off the bench and win it. Just, next thing you know, it's the bottom of the 9th inning, and I'm bringing him up there to pinch hit, and I'm thinking if he hits one out, we're win this game, And I thought, and I said afterwards, I said, hey, I told you we had a chance to win the game. But everybody that we got, Eddie Rosario was kind of just treading the water. I think maybe with Cleveland is where he was.
Yep. Yes.
Or Minnesota, maybe. Because
Yeah.
I remember we talked. Walt called big first baseman that used to be with the. Canadian guy that used to be with the Rockies. Morneau was with Minnesota, and he's like this guy in big situations, no heartbeat, He can really hit. Eddie ended up being the NLCS MVP.
Yep.
But you know what? Things started happening. All of a sudden things started happening. We were pitching really good. Next, thing it's like you win a few in a row and and then all of a sudden it's like, man, you know what? We're right there. Now comes September, and man, there's nothing like. I remember Bobby used to talk about that. There isn't. There's nothing like September baseball.
That's right.
When you got a lead, and that first game of the series is so big because it's a 2-game swing all the time, and you're playing that guy, or you know what? You go home, you. All you want to do is get to the ballpark in September. You wake up, get a cup of coffee, and can't wait to go to the ballpark.
And let's go.
And get that next game. And there's nothing like it. You don't get, you're not, everybody's exhausted, but nobody's tired then. You're going
when
on.
you're winning and you're
going on
chance to win.
It's like your adrenaline is just so.
Right. It's like being a kid again playing baseball.
Yeah. And you know what? The
fun.
first year in 2018, we weren't supposed to win the division that year. And I looked down in September of 2018. Somebody says, how are these guys handling this? And I said, handling it? I said, I look down there and I feel like I'm in an American Legion dugout. They're having it. I said, these guys are having the time of their life.
That's great.
They're loving this.
That's great.
It was awesome.
Well,
but we did. We just started winning some games. And, the biggest thing right there, as I told the players every year, is we got to win the division first in order to do something special. You got to get in. There wasn't all the expanded wild cards and everything. So we needed to win the division, and after that, things got to go right. You can't control things, but if you don't get in, you don't give yourself a chance to do something special. When you don't lament people getting hurt, because I always said, guys can get hurt, but you know what? That always gives somebody else a chance to do something really good.
Right.
And it just started going, and then, we finally won some series, because the biggest thing I know we'd get, after getting that, it's like, you guys haven't won a playoff series since before I got there as a manager. And then all of a sudden, we won the division, then we get to the NLCS, and and then finally we started winning some, playoff series. The next thing you know, we beat the Dodgers. It's like, oh my gosh, and we walk them off a couple times and won that last game at home. And I'm like, this is so cool.
Beautiful.
That day after, and, you got those World Series hats you're putting on. And, everything. It's just there's nothing like it.
Mm.
And then we all of a sudden we're in Houston, and it's just I remember we had our workout before the game. I had got a reservation there at that Vic and Anthony's across the street from the ballpark there, a really good steakhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And I took Ronnie and Troy. Troy was on the other side, which was surreal.
That had to be
Having your son be on the other
Yeah.
team was just that was God. How blessed am I?
That
to be
lineup
able to
card moment,
experience
though,
that.
right?
That was unbelievable.
That was awesome.
How did you handle that as a dad, your son being on the other
Yeah.
side? Was there still that competitive nature
Oh
between
no,
the two of
always.
you?
Always. We never really talk about it. We went out for dinner that night and we saw the whole baseball world in that steakhouse. And
Yeah.
then after that, it didn't seem all that much because we're, the days are so long, the
Yeah,
games
you're
are
doing it.
long.
Yeah.
He did come home. I remember we had the off day before the series started in Atlanta, and he went over and carved pumpkins with my grandkids and his nephews, and
Yeah.
and then we had dinner before Game 6 when we won it back in Houston at a Mexican restaurant there, and then it was funny because somebody asked me about that, and I said, well, I remember with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning, and we got the lead. I kind of looked over the other dugout, and I saw him kind of looking over to our dugout to what I was doing. And then after we win, we're doing the celebrations, and I think my daughter came over and said, Mom or Dad, look over in that dugout, and Troy was looking at us from the dugout, and then Ronnie and I went over and had a moment with him in their dugout. It was pretty cool. No, it wasn't special. It was
really special.
Really special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, and I told him too, I was like, man, I said, it took me 40 years to get here. You've been to 2 of them already, and you've
Right.
only been in the big leagues for 3 years
Yeah,
or something, And then they won the next year. So
Right.
that was pretty cool.
They had some.
That was a good team.
That was
a
good-
really good team.
You want to
team,
talk about a
yeah.
small guy with pop, Altuve?
Oh my
So,
God. Yeah.
He's insane. He's so good.
Their club's so good.
Yeah.
That was so good, and I got to know a lot of those guys, and it is really, they were a special group. I mean, there's some pros over there that loved to play, were good at what they did, and they were on the attack.
So you win it all. So now the challenge becomes staying
Yeah.
competitive. So how did then those 100-win seasons?
Then we put, I think, back-to-back 100 wins after we won the whole thing. And you know what, though? It was kind of like the gist of spring training the next year was, you know what? That's over. It's in the
Right.
vault.
Yep.
That's in the
Right.
vault. That's over. And I told him, I said, I don't want to hear my 2 least favorite words were last year. Last year's over. It's
Right.
done. It's in the vault.
Short
We're
memories.
short, we it's not going to happen again. If we think we're going to go out there and just, because we've been there and we did it last year, it ain't going to happen. I mean, we're still going to,
Right.
you got to get out here early. We got to work.
That's right.
We got to do spring training the same way. We got to pay attention to detail. We got to play the game the right way. We got to do little things. And because I said, you know what, in order for us to do something special again, we got to win the division, and that's hard to do when you got the Phillies and at that time the Nationals and,
Right.
and the
Yeah.
Mets and all those teams. This is not an easy thing to do, to go out and win another division, and then we went out and won 100 games.
Yep.
And that spoke volumes, I think, to the makeup of that club and the
Right.
character of that team and who those guys were and
Right.
the professional and I never worried one time about them getting their work in, because I look and I was like, my God, I'd have to sometimes,
Pull them
do the
back.
old show and go things just to, because them guys,
Right.
they didn't know any better.
Right.
And I'd tell them, and I trusted the players. I said, pretty much, every day is an optional BP to me, because you guys are all posting, but you know what?
Right.
If the guy didn't hit, you know what they did? They were out there getting their ground balls.
That's right.
And they hit so much in the cage anymore, way too much, that it's,
I think so too.
yeah. But you know what? I never worried about those guys taking advantage of those situations, because they didn't. They were too professional and they were too
Right.
proud. And you know what? The guys in there, those Freddie Freemans and guys they weren't going to allow that to happen.
Right.
They're going to,
Right.
and that was a big thing too, because I remember when I first got this job, I was handling every fire, everything came across my desk. And I was like, man, I was exhausted. I used to tell somebody, it's like about twice a week I could change the hinges on my door, because every time I turned around, there was either a player, a coach, a trainer, a front office guy, so a media person coming in and closing the door. you know, and every time something happened with the players, you know, I had to bring them into my office and do all the discipline, and then it got to a point where that room took care of itself.
Right.
And when that happened, then we had something special.
Right.
When they policed themselves, and I'd take care of the big things, you know, when needed.
Yeah.
But there'd be times when players would stick their head in the door and say, "Don't worry about that, I'll handle it." And I'm thinking, okay, this is something special here.
Yep.
When you get to the pulse is that, and the culture is that they take care of themselves, and it's something really, really good.
And they're keeping each other accountable,
Absolutely.
which is what you want.
Which is what you want.
Not only do you guys have like back-to-back 100-game seasons, but in 2023, probably hands down the best offensive team to ever stroll through baseball.
That was crazy that year. What happened? I mean, it was nuts. I mean, those first innings of games the games were over.
Yeah,
pretty much.
You just mashed.
It just mashed. Everybody had career years.
Yep. Well, you had to if Acuna doesn't win the MVP, your first baseman.
Yeah.
I
mean, you talk about a pro's pro. That guy's the most. You know, he's doesn't get the credit he deserves too.
Right.
I mean, he plays every day. Matt Olds
Oh,
every day, every year. Not every day during the year.
780 games
every day, and I tried to get him to take a day off last year. He screwed up his heel or something, hit the base wrong or something like that, and I'm like, because I said, you know what, we probably need to, or if you want to, I don't care. You'll play every day. So I mean, you only got to go out like 10 feet to your spot.
Right.
So, and B, I didn't realize how good he was, and how he can, you know, it's not easy all year for him too. I mean, God, he has to work at it, and he handles tough situations and bad spells was better. Talk about being the same guy every day and work and consistent attitude. And, you know, I've been blessed to be around guys like him, Freddie, Nick Markakis.
Yeah.
You know, Derek Lowe, when he was here, I mean, the guy was a machine.
Yep.
You know, Javier Vasquez, Edgar Renteria, you know, those just gamer guys that are Mark Teixeira came in. Remember when we got him? It's like you could set your watch when he come through that door of the weight room. And
those are guys that had wonderful routines.
Oh, and that's a good thing too, because they don't come with that. That's learned, and
that's right.
Guys don't get to the big leagues with routines.
Yep.
And they learn that, and it's very important. Those guys that are successful have routines.
So I do a thing down at the Braves. I'm on the third base dugout, and I look over, and Austin Riley's on his knees going through his he was struggling at the time.
Yeah.
With the bat, but he was out there doing his defense. I mean, it was early too.
Yeah.
Doing his little
drills. Yeah.
His drills. And I was like, I like that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I got to give a lot of credit to Ron Washington too.
Oh yeah.
Because he helped give those guys routine.
That's right.
Because he's another one. You could set your watch when he'd come in, do the same thing every day.
Yep.
He was just like those players, you know, they need to get his bag of balls and his fungo. And, you know, he'd go to the bullpen and have a smag, but he would come back up, and he got those guys to where if they didn't do it, they didn't feel right.
That's right.
You know, and they did it. These guys would do it on the last day of the season. They're on there doing those, you know, and right, good, bad, whatever. You know what? It was routine. He really helped instill routine in those guys.
Well, that's what you need to do at A-ball level.
Yeah, no, they need to learn that, because
but it's in today's world, it's too hot.
Yeah.
You're working too hard. You're tired.
Like, oh, wait a minute. These guys have chosen a profession where they're going to be outside.
And like you always used to say, you signed the contract.
Yeah.
You should tell them that all the time.
Well, that's what
why'd you sign the contract?
That's what I try to do, get them to have a routine.
Yeah.
Offense routine.
Yeah.
And defense. That way, when you're struggling, you just maintain your routine.
Yeah.
And because of your talent, you're going to come out of it.
Yeah. And it's not like you're doing 100 things one day and none for 4. You do the same thing every day.
That's right. Just a little
bit.
And
he used to say a little bit over
day.
the course of 6 months, a little bit ends up being a whole lot.
That's
if
right.
you do a little bit every day.
That's the biggest thing that kids need to learn at the minor league level is routine.
Yeah. No, you're right. All players need it. And the good ones they're unbelievable. I tell you a story. I remember when I first got this job, we played like 15 innings against the Brewers, And the next day, I don't know if we had a day game or something. I didn't play Nick Markakis thinking I was doing him a favor. Oh boy, did I tick him off. He can't, and it's, how and I think as a coach, as a manager, you never stop learning from the players either.
Right.
If you're smart, you don't. So he came in, he goes, you know what, this is what I train for. And I never looked at it like that before. He goes, I'm not tired. I train for this, so I really respect him. I had so much respect for that guy as a player, person, how he did things. I mean, he was talk about a machine and a pro.
Right.
He's a pro's pro.
Right.
Had a great career, played every day.
Right.
I mean,
played every day.
But he had routine.
Right.
So what do you think is harder, building a winner or sustaining one?
They're both equally hard. I think probably the sustaining over the years.
Said he would say that.
the sustaining is, but you know what, I'm gonna tell you what, when I got here in 16, there was a lot of round pegs and square holes, or square pegs and round holes.
Yes, sir.
And then, you can't give, it comes from, the trades and all
Right.
that, and of your farm system, the scouting, player development is huge. But, maintaining and not getting complacent, or just like we didn't get complacent after 21. We went out and had
Right.
2 of our best seasons
Right.
ever. And I think you got to, and you got to identify the makeup and the players. It's
Right.
makeup is a tool.
It is
a tool.
It's a tool.
Yes.
And,
who we're going to have on here is Alan Butts.
yeah.
And I'm going to ask him about that.
Yeah.
When you go in and you're looking at a guy you're going to draft, and you're going to draft pretty high, you better look at the makeup.
You better look at the makeup. Yep. And I've talked to Butsy about that.
Because
now
that's
that
what
he's-
separates.
Yeah.
a lot of guys.
He's been out, now in that different arena, and he's done a great job.
Right.
I've always asked Alex, and there's like, no, this guy's a really good scout. And I said, well, he knows what they look like, and he
Yeah.
knows where to, and he'll talk to me about, going and having lunch with guys or getting to know them, and which you have to. And you need the person they
Well,
are.
I think, him being in the big leagues as a bullpen catcher,
Yeah.
being around those professional, you see the makeup
Absolutely. And how
that
important
makes
it
you
is.
win. And then to
Yeah.
go into scouting, it helped him.
No, absolutely.
A
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. And he's done a great job. And, but that's, that sustaining is hard to do. It's hard to sustain good years as a player,
Right.
and not, okay, I did this and I'm rookie of the year, or I did that, and now all of a sudden people are laying in the weeds for you, and they're
right.
scouting you, and that, because I used to tell guys, it's like, you think the pitching coach isn't watching videos on you hit
Yeah.
and everything? I mean, they're looking for ways to get you out, and they're going to look at where your kryptonite is and things like that. And so it's hard to sustain and do it year in and year out as a player, as a team. It's
mentally tough to be able to do what you said. Last year's last year.
Yep. It's over. It's in the
Now
vault.
I got to go again.
Yep. It's in the vault.
It's in the vault. It's on.
Yep.
It's going to be on the back of your bubblegum card, your
Yep.
baseball card. And now let's put another good season on
Exactly.
on that card.
Yep. Exactly.
It's tough to do though.
Yeah, it is.
But that's why you being in that position and say, hey guys, yeah, we won 100 games last year, but they're expecting us,
No. Well,
They
you know
know
what?
we're winning.
So, and
So-
I always tell a story. When I first got here, I'd drive to the ballpark. I'd drive 81 times to the ballpark during the course of the year. And for 2 years, I would drive to the ballpark and hope we would win that night. Then and I told the players this one year, I said, you know what happened? I said, I started driving to the ballpark expecting to win. I said, you realize the difference, how big a difference that is?
Oh, yeah.
Hoping to
Mentally.
win and expecting to win, and
yeah.
how hard it is to get to the expectation part, and that's you know what? And I used to tell them too, it's like now everybody's expecting us to win, and we're going to, I said, God, we've worked really hard to do that.
Right.
You know what? Everything we've been through, thank God we're expected to win now, because we
Right.
weren't expected to win when I first got here. And then it changed, and I'm like, I'm glad it did.
Right.
I'm really glad that it did change.
Yeah. Had to be fun.
Oh, yeah, it was.
I mean, when I was coaching up there, there's 14 straight.
Yeah. Holy smoke. Well, you know what? You had guys that were going to go on the mound, and you expected to win that night.
Yeah. I mean,
And that was the guy. When Chris Sale's pitching, I expect to win.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you
That's-
guys were dominating.
how great a pickup is that?
Awesome. He's
And I don't know him, but he seems like he's a great guy.
he's a wonderful man. He's
got
wonderful.
a little edge on.
No, he does. He's
When
a
he-
competitive sucker boy.
when he gets on the mound.
Yeah. But he is a wonderful person, father, husband. And he's a, you know what? I can't say this about about a lot of pitchers. He's a ball player. He loves everything about it. He loves coming to the park, being with the guys, showing up at the gym, consistency. I'd be on my treadmill and he'd be in there and working out every day.
Yep.
And he gets on that mound. I remember one time I asked him, I said, "What do you think, Chris? How are you at?" And he goes, "I'm going to keep slinging it till you take me out." And that's his, he's never shakes,
Right.
you know, I mean, and he loves to compete.
Right.
He's a fierce competitor.
Right. Wasn't there a moment this last season where, I think you went out to talk to him and he refused? He's like, "No, let me finish," and he ended up striking out the next two guys.
It was like, I remember,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't never did that very much where I would go out and not because most of the time I'd take them out before I got there so they wouldn't let him talk me out of it.
Right.
So I'd give him the hook before. But he's the least diva superstar I've ever had and been around. And he's a Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer. This guy, I just, you know, if he stays healthy and, yeah, you know, they keep throwing balls out because every strikeout puts him closer to the top of the all-time league. He has a pyramid in a locker beside his, and you know, baseballs in
baseball?
cases of baseballs. He passed this guy and he passed that, you know, and it's constant. They're all day. They're always throwing balls out,
Right.
because he's gotten to that point in his career. Awesome. One of my all-time favorites.
Well,
to
I knew
manage.
when they picked him up, he had been hurt.
He'd been hurt with the Red Sox.
But I'm like,
yeah. But that
Man,
year,
if he comes through,
no,
woo.
he came back that year and
That
was
was a
really
steal.
good.
That
It was a steal.
That was a steal. Yeah.
Yes, I talked to Alex Cora all the time, and he's like, "I don't know how we did that one."
So you have injuries 2024 and then 2025, which was a tough season,
Yeah.
but also a massive decision on your part
Yeah,
and a transition into your next
yeah.
chapter of life for
Right.
you. At what point did you feel that it might be time?
You know what? When I signed this extension, and it was kind of with the understanding that last year was going to be it. And when I did that, I told Alex, I was like, you know what? It kind of makes me feel good to know where it is, because I really believe that it's like if I'd waited to retire till I was ready, I never would have.
Right.
And I knew I was going to turn 70, and I wanted to do some things. I said, I don't know how many times I remember in Macon, I'd tell hubby, I'd go in, it's like, man, I should be watching my kid play, not these knuckleheads.
Right.
You know, and we miss everything with our kids when we
miss
do
a
that.
lot.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not going to miss everything in my grandkids.
Right.
And so, and it was tough. And I got towards the end, and I'm like, I wasn't real sure,
Right.
you know,
Yes,
but
sir.
I was like, you know, come on, man. I said for 3 years prior, it's like I'd be in June and July going, I can't do this anymore. I mean, and so, you know, it was tough. But you know what? So after the season was over, I remember I went and picked the kids up from school, got them off the bus, and I brought them, and I said, here, you guys sit down here a minute. And the twins are there, and I said, you know, the next time you guys go to a Braves game, Grandpa's going with you. They looked at me, and they're like, you mean you're not managing the Braves again? And I said, no. And they both got big smiles. And they said, you mean you can watch us play in the spring and the summer? And
That's
I said,
beautiful.
I sure can. And when I saw their expressions, I said, you know what? This is right.
Yeah.
The
This
right
is the right
decision,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, there are times that's like, I don't want to go out like this, but you're not guaranteed that, you know, heaven forbid that we have injuries like we did the last 2
Right.
years.
That's right.
They could happen again next year. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
right.
part of it.
Yeah.
And so who's to say that, you know, hope that next year isn't like this year or whatever.
Right.
So then what are you going to do? Not, you know, so I'm in a good place. I'm excited about what my next chapter, as you say, Matthew, and I'm going to help. I'm going to spring training. I'm going to be there. I probably won't be there at 4:30 in the morning again, or I'm going to wait and go in there and eat breakfast and leave when I want.
I remember.
So I was going to ask you, what is
Yeah.
that? What is that from a senior advisor role?
Yes.
Like, what does that look like for you?
You know what? And I asked that. I asked Terry McGurk. I said, what am I going to do? And he said, anything you want. He said, you're going to define the role. I said, you don't have any parameters. You know, Alex, you know what? I got all the perks and none of the stress. I still got my expense account. Alex called and said, would you go to the winter meetings and represent the team? I said, yeah, and he called and was like, we'd like for you to go to the baseball writers when Drake Baldwin gets his rookie of the year. I was his manager, and I'm, God, I'd love to. He's such a wonderful young man. I said, yeah, I'd love to go with him. Or if he calls and says, I want you to go to Columbus and watch so-and-so pitch, man, I'll be there.
Right.
I'm looking forward to going back in the minor leagues and watching and seeing the players.
Right.
Seeing all these kids that I've been reading about.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be fun. And I'm going to take a trip. And I say, I'm going to go to, I said too, I said, I need to go to spring training because I'm getting to that age where I need the physical. I want the physical, which is hard. When you get out, it's harder to find one, I bet.
Wow.
When you don't have those doctors online and everything.
That's the beauty of baseball. If you get anything wrong, spring training, they find it.
They find it. Yeah, it's great.
And
yeah. Well, I remember you went through it too.
yeah.
That's
where they found it.
Yeah.
the prostate cancer.
Exactly. I know. Thank God.
Yep.
That's why I said I want the blood work. And
Claudell Washington found out the same year I did, but he had never had. He passed.
Yeah.
And he never had that physical every year.
Yeah.
And so by the time they found it,
Too late.
That's too late.
Too late.
Yeah.
They found
No, I know.
mine, and it was.
I know. And my father-in-law was like that. He was one of those old, he grew up in the time when you didn't go to the doctor.
That's right.
And he never did, and it got him. So I'm going to do
Whatever you want.
whatever I want. How about that?
I like that.
You know what that sounded
You've
like?
earned it. You've earned it.
It only took
Yes, I know exactly.
it only took me 50 years to get to that point.
Leo, right?
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
I'm going to do whatever
Whatever
I
I
want.
wanna do.
And I'm going to do,
Well,
and I'm going to enjoy it too. I mean, I'm going to go watch my grandkids.
Yes.
Hopefully I learn how to play golf a little bit. Things like
we
that.
need to go play.
I'm your man.
I know.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Yeah.
We can't get away without
Well,
talking
we have
about someone
the glue that's held you together. Yes.
that is stuck through all that
Yeah.
up and down 20 years minor league. Ronnie,
Oh, I know. It's,
she's a gem,
I know. We're 42 years married.
right?
And I always tell people, it's like, if it wasn't for her, I couldn't have done all this.
Oh yeah.
You leave in February, come home in September, October, and she's at Shepherd Spinal Center working, and
We
kids
say
are
the same thing about her.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
The encouragement, of the ups and downs, it took perseverance to go through
Oh man.
those 20 years.
Well,
and for her too.
Oh no, like I said, she would bring the kids the day after school's out, and she wouldn't take them home till the day before school started. And they've been on that baseball, time schedule where,
Right.
Yep.
I mean, Troy the clubhouse guy'd bring him home an hour and a half after me a lot of times because he'd
Right.
hang up, he'd do shoes and hang up
Right.
laundry and
Right.
But it is if you don't have that, I didn't have her, I couldn't have done this. Like
Right.
and like I say, to drag that, we wore out 3 Astro vans, and she would do that, and she'd get milk crates and buy one of those plug-in TV VHS players at Sam's and bungee cord them on there and put movies in when they're traveling around after me.
Yep.
And, and then, like I say, living 3 to a trainer, pitching coach and manager in an apartment for the summer.
Yeah.
And, what, I look at it all. And if you ask my kids and her, they probably go back and say, we wouldn't change a thing. We loved it. We loved that
awesome.
life.
Yeah.
I think it was good for our kids to grow up and be around adults and know how to handle themselves.
That's right.
And I think it was good for their maturation and but it's hard when you're,
Well, baseball is structured too.
Yeah.
It's every day, daily
yeah,
routines,
exactly.
and structure. And
But you're right. I mean, I'm glad you said that, because if it wasn't for her, I couldn't have withstood this. And, all of us.
Proverbs talks about it. He who findeth a wife findeth a good thing.
Yeah.
No, and you guys got gems. We always try to highlight my mom.
Yeah,
my mom's always
absolutely, and she's been it from the start too.
Yep.
I mean, holy cow!
Yeah.
Well, they got married. They met married when she always said that we didn't have a pot to pee in or a window to throw it out of.
Exactly.
But she raised us by herself, just like your wife. No. He's always gone. You were gone 9-10 months out of the year.
Yeah.
So we talk about all y'all's accolades, but what people really don't see
behind the scenes
is the wives carry a humongous stress and burden.
No,
for
they do.
You guys to be able to do what you do.
How many times you get that phone call and you're like,
How about after the season's over, you come home and you say, you got to give me a break here.
Yeah.
You got to get into our routine.
Is that? Yeah.
Charlie said that.
Yeah.
He was messing up his wife's routine.
Yeah, I know. And I go in there and I'm thinking, where's everything at? I open cabinets and I'm thinking, I'd go home and I'd have like a little office in the basement, and then I'd get home and it'd be a sewing room, or something like that. And I'm thinking, how can I, gripe about this? Because I said, I'm seasonal.
Right.
I'm only here half the time.
Right.
Seasonal dad.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's but you're right. Yeah. Where's the knives and forks and plates and everything or whatever?
I don't even know where
it's tough,
at.
man. It's something that.
But I'm glad she's got to not only the tough times, but went through
it's
good
good.
times. And now better times.
Yeah. No, she wants to, like I say,
I just retired 3 years ago, and I haven't missed. I kind of miss some of the guys and, the camaraderie, that kind of stuff. But the first game I go to, I got to tell you this, they leave me tickets, fantastic tickets where we sit up there.
Yeah.
And you guys, my friend that I took with, he said, do you miss baseball? Nah. And I'm looking at second, and the other team's I'm first base coach in the stands, and I'm looking at a shortstop put something on.
Yeah.
They got a pick off on.
Yeah.
I'm yelling, back. And he's looking at me, and my friend's looking at me and says, tough to get it out of your system, isn't it? Anyway, we come back and won. We come back and won. And I got to walk across that bridge over to where Murph's place is.
Yeah.
Thousands of people just hooting and hollering. I'm like, this is what it's like to be part of the Braves Nation.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
beautiful
It is
thing.
cool.
Was
it is
unbelievable because we win.
You go
we shake, go down, get dressed, whatever.
Yeah,
take a shower. To walk across there and the people hooting and hollering, I became a fan that day.
Yeah, it's great.
Are you excited to do that next year?
Yeah,
to be part of the chop.
I know. You know what? And it's going to be. I know there's going to be adjustment, and I'm going to go to spring training. I'm going to be excited, I think, and then I'm going to get here, and I'm going to miss it. I mean, God, you do something for so long.
Yeah, your body's
going
to miss it.
Which is why I'm glad I'm kind of going to spring training.
Right.
And that you talk about that Braves country thing, and I said I had no idea the responsibility that came with this job that you have to an area, a part of the country, a fan base,
right?
What you're responsible for, and I've said this for 10 years. Braves country's a real thing.
Yep.
I mean, these people are nuts about it, and
100%.
I can't.
Yes.
I walk out of the church today. So we go on, and there's this old gentleman holding the door open, and Troy got the biggest kick. We're standing there. He goes, "Coach," just says, "Coach," And Troy just started cracking up. He goes, He said, "You can't go anywhere," and I said, "I can't." I went to there's a new steakhouse, one of them Roadhouse or something type things up Dallas or whatever. So we went last Sunday. And I ended up taking pictures with all the wait staff and everybody and you know what?
Beauty.
Great.
It's
awesome. It's awesome. But it is. I'm looking forward to taking the kids. They're because they've had the run of that place for that new ballpark.
Yep.
It's And it is. That's a special place down
It's
there.
a great facility.
It's
huge.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Just the surrounding thing. It's. I've gotten to meet a lot of owners from teams because they want to look at that blueprint.
Right.
You know, people talk about building new ballparks and areas, and it's as good as it gets right down there.
Yeah.
Well,
How about when they built Frisco's?
Yeah.
And Dusty Baker, I think, was the manager, went out on the field and he looked around and says, "Where's the bullpens?"
Yeah.
They forgot to put the bullpens on the field.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
well,
Well,
go ahead.
I might have to go down to spring training
Yeah, you ought to.
if you play some golf.
Yeah, I'll play. You know what? I'm going to stay at the Welland Park Golf and
I
Country
remember we
Club.
used to play. It was fun.
Yeah. No, I know. I'll play with you.
Yeah.
Come down.
All right.
Well, we kind of want to wrap up here, Skip, and kind of got some fun rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
So answer the best of your abilities, as short as we can. There's 5 or 6 of them. It might take you a minute because you've been in this for so long. So figure out what your favorite things are. But what's your favorite ballpark smell?
Smell?
Yeah.
Oh man. You know what? It's probably at ballpark leather, the gloves. So I have my they just not to do real quick. We're looking at some old gloves I had, and I smelled every one. And Luke, my 10-year-old grandson, goes, "Why you do that?" And I said, "I don't know. There's just something about that smell of a baseball glove."
It's unique.
I
It's
gotta-
either that
I got to
or-
mention this. Back in the day, what did you used to smell?
Yeah. the
Take the
Sharpies.
Oh, yeah.
You would smell the Sharpies.
You were sniffing Sharpies?
Yeah, I was sniffing Sharpies
Back in
then.
That's before salts.
Yeah, before the smelling
This is
salts.
bad.
Before
Yeah.
smelling salts.
Yeah, but it is leather
All right.
Uh,
Sorry.
Funniest superstition you've ever seen
I've ever seen.
from a coach or a player?
Probably wearing the same underwear without washing them.
Yeah, that's a classic one.
I'd
Yeah.
be glad. I mean, I've been guilty of doing that.
Mm,
Like, this is good. Nah, you got to wear the same one. One, I hit 2 home runs in this. I'm just gonna wear the same one I wear
Yeah.
tomorrow. If you weren't in baseball, what would you have done?
You know what? I wasn't in pro ball. I think I'd have been a college coach. I think I was going to be in baseball. I've done baseball every year since I was 6,
mm.
and I think I would have been a college baseball coach.
You'd have dominated too.
Yeah. About that side note, that Tennessee coach who took a pay cut to go coach in San Francisco. That's crazy.
Yeah,
San
Really?
Francisco's new manager was the manager
at University of
at
Tennessee.
University of Tennessee.
Buster hired him.
Yeah.
He never been in pro ball.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep. And then we'll see how it goes.
We'll see.
Clip it.
It's
Last,
a different.
last one. One Braves moment you'd relive for 10 seconds.
Oh, World Series.
There, it's serious.
That third out of the World Series.
Yeah,
I remember
I have that.
I was like that. You know what? We weren't even in trouble in the 9th inning, and that last ball was hitting. I'm just,
It was a ground ball to Freddie Freeman.
You know,
And I remember that as I have the bobblehead of Freddie.
I have the
from
ball.
that.
I
Yeah.
just saw the ball. He gave me the ball the last out of the World Series. He kept for
Wow.
me.
Really?
He came in
That's
after the
awesome.
game and said, "Here," and I have it in my.
And you know what? That tells the story of Freddie
Yeah,
Freeman.
yeah. I mean, I have it in my office.
How great he is.
Yeah, he is. He's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, it's more to me that's a testimony to what
You meant
you
to him.
instilled and what you meant to him as a player, as a man, a coach.
Yeah, it's
Ma-
that was very touching when he did that too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have to do that.
We'll let you close it out.
You'll let me close it out. All right, we'll close it out.
I have a habit of talking a little too much anyway, so we'll let you close it out.
But yeah, we're gonna wrap up today, guys. So, Skip, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I
my
mean,
pleasure. This has been cool.
This
This
is
is
the
fun. Yeah.
this reached the record for our longest one, but it's been an absolute blast and
Yes.
laughing with you
Yeah, it
guys. and
seems
hearing
like we've
your
been here about
stories.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
If I looked down, it was like an hour 48. I was
Two
like,
two and a
oh,
half
man.
hours.
Yeah, almost coming up on 2.5
Oh,
hours.
wow.
Your resume is incredible. You mean a ton to the fans and to baseball in general. I mean, 5 decades, man. That's
I know.
impressive. And that's respected amongst everybody. And we talk about Braves Nation, or Braves country. We actually have international fans that follow our podcast that grew up watching
over in
us
the
and
UK.
watching in the 90s,
Yeah.
and they've moved
Oh,
all
nice.
across the world, and they reach out to us saying, "Can you send me stuff? Can you do this? Can you do that?" And it gives testimony to what you've instilled in the players and held up the name of Brave Nations and what it means to everybody. So again, thank you for joining,
My
hubby,
pleasure.
myself,
Yep.
and Matthew. It's been an absolute honor. And guys, don't forget, give us a follow on YouTube. We also on Spotify as well. Just search Outside the Diamond, hit the follow, hit the bell so you guys see our latest episode. We have a lot of amazing things coming up over the next month.
Yeah, we got 12 episodes.
Yeah,
Yep.
so we're gonna be hopefully dropping one almost every single week, moving forward. So we're pretty excited about it. Cool.
Awesome.
Well,
Sir,
Great job,
thanks,
guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
buddy.
Take care, everybody.
Appreciate you having me. Awesome.